Entertain a motion to approve the contract and terms as discussed.
So moved. A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Discussion on 2021, 2022 budget. Sue and Ed, we turn it over to you guys first to just provide the information, and thank you both very much for scrambling to pull all that stuff together on short notice, so it's appreciated.
Sure. I don't know what order, yeah, you want all this in. Do you want to do this one first?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So Ms. Richardson had requested some information that they pulled together, and then for all of us to look at.
Get my fingers to work here. Sorry, that's that one. And yeah, he created this one. So.
Oh, does
Do you have,
I think you have that. You have that. Oh, okay.
do you want to do the, I was trying to think what would be easiest first, what would make the most sense. We could just go down the
So why
questions,
don't we
I
do
think.
this one last?
Yeah,
This is
yes,
kind of a
because,
summary.
yeah, I was thinking it was actually the salary one, sorry. So Ed, I may defer to you in terms of your list. So do you have the stipend one? Do you want to do the stipend one?
Okay.
I think Ed has enough. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There we go.
Some questions were asked. You have in front of you. First page is just, they asked about the stipends that were in the budget. Second page is all the stipends for coaches. $48,440 for the middle school. And $210,825 for the high school. The next page showing the last 8 years of what each account, actual and budget. And then the last 2 pages are the stipends that are listed.
For non-athletic stipend.
Correct, yep.
So the stipends on this last page, this is what comprises,
Some of them, yeah, not all of them are filled,
Mhm.
but those are the ones that we've done in the past.
so
And
like.
if you look at the average of the stipends on the first line, 5111.5, that's this page.
Mhm.
This page.
Yep.
Yep.
You see what the actual's been, 74,000, 50,000, 60,000, 60,000, 74, was 82 this year, which we're not gonna spend,
Right.
and it's 60,000 next year.
What are the-
So the Human Resources post the positions that the administrators feel are necessary and so forth. The only change that we will make is that the first 4 department chair guidance will be eliminated. That's at 12,249. They don't do that, right?
How much,
Correct.
how much?
12,249,
On this page, sorry.
right here.
Oh.
It's 5511.58.
Because the other position that we have in the ESSER budget will cover
Oh,
that.
okay, so it's going out of.
Yeah,
Correct.
And so I guess I just have one question, and I think you answered it already. Is the reason why there's a drastic reduction from 2021 to 21, 22 because they're in grants?
Because
Some
they,
of them are, and some of them are just haven't been used before.
Okay, so we're not gonna use
Correct.
them and some are in.
They haven't been used,
Because
so.
that's a $22,000
Right, correct.
difference. Okay.
Go ahead, Nikki.
What was in 5111.5? What's in that one?
That's,
Okay.
if you look at it,
Oh,
Right
right
here.
there.
yes,
Got it.
okay.
This.
Yeah, the account number, yeah.
715
Are these?
Okay, so that's different share.
Yes, back and forth.
Got it. For guidance.
No, the guidance is over here,
Oh,
5.8,
okay.
5.8. This is 5.0. I didn't put the 0.
That's okay. Okay, now I
Okay.
understand.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So I guess, so part of my question with this was just because when I went through the whole budget detail, there's quite a few different places within here where it just says stipends and there's a dollar amount. It doesn't tell you what those stipends are. So this is a list of all the stipends, but
Correct.
this still doesn't really tell me what exactly we're budgeting for in here. So like the first one I have here in Forbes is like page 6 in my budget detail. It says stipends, $7,519
So where are you?
in
Forbes.
Forbes.
What page?
So, but like, how would I, by looking at that and looking at this, know what it is that we're budgeting for?
Whatever's contractual for that site, right?
Mhm.
Like the board
Yeah.
flyers.
Yeah.
So
So
the
what-
contract dictates who gets the stipend
Right.
and then for that site.
What account is
What
that?
page?
I don't know.
What page are you on, Liz?
Well, it's page
Well,
6 in my
it's-
printed version of the budget detail, which
So if you
technically
look
has
at-
page numbers.
If you
so-
look at Forbes is 04. Just want to check.
On the long sheet.
Forbes is 03, so if you look at 03 in here, you'll find out what's the stipends are.
So, yeah. Forbes Flyers actually would have been in the athletic
Athletics,
budget,
correct,
which
yeah.
is what is the reduction, if you look at Ed's first page.
That's what the reduction is?
Yes, because Jan Harrington, amazing as she has been, is retiring,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And with that, we have the Forbes Flyers, basically coach who's running that, now going from a veteran who has run it to a newbie who is wonderful. He's
Yeah.
green, he's a former Forbes Flyers. And we don't have an assistant coach, we just have the one. So there's a differential of, I think, like 4,500.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the other coach?
Well, he has to apply first.
Well, that, yeah, because that was one of my, because there was we see well, it looks like high school. It looks like athletics, high school going down.
It does go.
4,500.
Yep, it's all included.
But then normally they get steps too, I think.
Yeah,
Or
that's-
some sort of increase.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't know if it was.
Yeah.
If what we're losing is 4,500 or if it's actually
Nope,
more.
it's just that from
It's
the
just
Forbes
that.
Flyers.
So
That's
everybody
it.
else's, all
Yep.
these other stipends were the same as last year.
Yes.
So where does it say on this stipend sheet? So the site, I'm just trying to figure this out. So for Forbes,
Yeah, I can't find what you're talking about. Can I just look
Yeah,
at your page so I could see what number you're
I mean, and this
looking
is
at?
just there's
Because I just
several
wanted to see.
sites where it reads similarly. But this is just
Okay,
the
but
first
let
one.
me read okay, I just want to see where, I'm just gonna flip if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I just want to see where you're coming from. So this is still in the Forbes account. What the hell your pages are in? Here.
That's how I printed off that first.
That's
big
just the way it
electronic
came.
one.
So
Yeah.
it's actually in this 25, which is student activities, which is kind of strange. It's like that, I don't think that has to do with either one of, and the number stayed the same. This is within literacy. And then you go to there. Okay, hang on, let me
Student
just check.
activities is different,
Hang
I can
on.
get you that.
Yeah,
different.
because that's,
You'll see a
and
number
that's what
of,
I'm,
right.
yeah, thinking, because it'll be organized in a different way.
Correct. I can get you that tomorrow.
So then all these places, how do we know, like when it just says stipends, like when you guys put the budget together and those numbers go in
Yep.
there? What are those, what are we basing those numbers on? Or what are we looking to pay out of those numbers if it's not.
Usually it's in site 12, and it'll give you that overview. That's what Ed was talking about before, giving you this full list, because that's the department heads and coordinators or student council or all those other stipends, right?
Yeah.
So those are in site 12, and then the ones for the athletics are in site 13, because athletics is site 13. So those are separated out into two different areas. I just want to see if Ed can get you that other, that's great. But yeah, that's weird. That's just a student activity piece that he would be able to pull separately so you could see it for each school.
Okay, yeah. and
Because
I'll see-
that's totally different than what we're presenting.
Right, and it just, I mean, it's all just has that, it's all phrased
But
the same way when,
I think that's the hard part.
yeah, definitely. And I think there are other, I don't know if there was other sites, building level sites that also have that.
They probably have the 25.
Mhm.
So it's probably school first, then student activities, the account 25. And so you probably see that in each school, but that's what Ed is saying. He can get that for you so you could actually see that breakdown.
Okay.
I guess
And-
what is the question though, I guess? What are we, so we have, in our contracts, we have all the stipends that we pay. If we run the
Yeah.
programs, we have to pay these stipends.
Right.
So
And-
is the question, are we eliminating any programs or?
Well, I had that question just because the only one that was, I think, real different was high school athletics. And I was just curious to know if there was a program that was being eliminated or what it was. And
Right.
she just answered that, that was the.
Right,
So
so do we want,
no, but my other question is just there's several places where it just says stipends and it's not telling us what stipends that consists of. And then in other places, there's, significant amount of detail on other types of topics. So I was just wondering when it says stipends, what it is that, I mean, like I understand it's stipends, but I mean, like what stipends? That was my question.
I think it's just the descriptors that we've inherited in New World for years and years and years, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's why Ed presents student activities at the budget meetings, which is separate from, and he gives you all that
Right.
detail. And then here he's giving you all the detail for the athletics and then giving you all the detail for all of those other positions for, like Fiona said, what we have to pay in terms of
So he should just
department
give this
heads or
on activities too,
coordinators or
basically.
whatever.
He should just
Yeah,
click
he
on-
does it
can
every-
Click on the line item, you
Right.
can- it should detail you.
Right.
So we pay student activities out of our general budget. There are people get.
It's not, it's student activities because it's with the students.
Yeah.
That's not a separate account. It's in the budget.
Yeah, it's in the
Right.
budget. It's the name of the account.
Correct.
Student
Correct.
activities is the name of the account.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, but
Okay.
then I thought we were talking about the other student activities, because I know Ed's been giving reports on the other student activities accounts, which is something else.
Yes.
Right.
That's something else.
So do you have the other for each
Yeah, I'll
school?
have to go through.
Okay.
I want to just
Yeah.
make sure, because I don't want to create a bunch of work if
Yeah.
it's not necessary.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. And if I'm the only person that's curious, I just, because like, I love the budget detail because I love looking at like, oh, just we're getting all these different magazines and all these different things. And so
Yeah.
but then there's a few other things that just seem like they're all lumped together and there's not that detail given. So that was only one of the things that I had a
Mhm.
question about.
Yeah.
You know,
But-
that
yeah.
was that way. So.
Yeah. And then, I mean, a lot of them are in the contract. So you can just look at. the
they're all
contract.
in the contract. If
Yeah.
they're not in the contract.
But there's
they
stuff
don't.
in the contract that we don't necessarily
Do-
pay
Right.
for too, if there's
Right.
if we're not running that program this year.
Right,
So
right,
that's why I'm
but-
just curious,
But they're.
what are
but
we
they're-
putting in here for this year? What
they're in
programs are we anticipating running? That type of thing.
Oh, okay,
Does
you're
that make
talking,
sense?
so that's basically your question. Are all those programs in the budget this year, or are some of them pulled out because we know they're not running? I guess that's your question, correct?
Right, well, there's a number in here. How are we coming to that number? Is every single thing that's in the contract being put into that number, or are we only putting a number in there for the things we anticipate running this year?
That, yeah, right.
So
right,
that,
that'd be
I
the
mean,
question.
which a
Yeah.
list of, if it was a list of this,
Yeah.
okay, this $7,000, this is,
Yeah.
$3,000 for Forbes
Right.
flyers and $5,000 for
Right.
yearbook or whatever it was.
It was al-
That would answer that question.
It was always my assumption that that it all goes into the budget, but I don't know if they do it that way. Because most districts do that. It all goes into the budget, and then if it doesn't run, it doesn't run for whatever reason.
Well, and if that's the way it's being done, then that's the answer. And I can
Yeah.
go and look and see what stipends are. I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know because
You know.
it wasn't.
Gary.
I mean, for the sake of transparency and maybe a fuller, better understanding of how the budget flows, it might be helpful if Ed can break some of this stuff down, if it's, easy enough. Because I mean, there are a lot of things that lump together. I'm not, for whatever reason, that they've been for years.
Right,
It's just line
that's the
items, but,
issue, right.
Yeah.
I'll say from my experience in the past, people accusing us of not being transparent.
Mhm.
If there's any question, just, break it down, because
Mhm.
before I got on this board, everybody accused us, and not us, but the board of being hiding stuff, which I know isn't happening.
Yeah, see, and I guess the way I look at this kind of stuff is the last hour of our budget isn't the time to really do all this stuff, like monthly at the budget
Right.
meetings.
And
Like if people are curious about
Right.
stipends, I
Yeah.
think that would be a better place
I-
to say, like,
yeah.
can we break it down differently?
yeah, and I was just gonna suggest that we could do it maybe a couple times a year and talk about what the
Mhm.
stipends, like what's running, what's not running. Maybe something was gonna run, but then last minute there was no coach, so that didn't
Mhm.
run or something. So that would be a fluid thing. So we could look at it a couple times a year in budget. That's not
Because
a
the
problem.
special ed used to all be lumped together too.
Right.
remember? And then I
Yeah.
started breaking it down slowly and now you can see.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
ahead, Nikki.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I think we got some of the detail, to nobody's fault later before, like, I think we got it the same day we had a meeting, so I think this is really the first
Yeah.
meeting that, like, I know I was able to digest some of it, but, so maybe too in the budget meeting, we can talk about some of these things that maybe as board members we like as part of this.
Mhm.
So then Sue knows, hey, we always want the details, so we can get that, up
Mhm.
front, and then we're not asking these requests while they're already.
The
So
difficulty with just getting it too early is we don't necessarily know where the teachers are gonna fall, even though at a specific school, are gonna have that many positions. They may switch from one to the other, or a sped teacher moves from here to there because of whatever, because the student's coming up, or the paras or whatever. So that's why it's better to get a little bit later so that things are a little more firmed up. And obviously it ends up changing as the board decides things as well. So it's kind of a catch-22 where I think Armand's suggestion of getting it as we're going throughout the year, and I think Ed's been really good about, providing information, and if people have questions about anything or future, what do you think we're gonna do for next year? We can certainly bring that forward. Because it's not consistent, even in terms of the stipend piece, it's weird because like Vogel Wetmore doesn't have a section 25. So and it's just because of New World and how it's evolved over time, which is so strange. Whereas Forbes does, and then high school has it, and then they also have drama and music there. And it's
Right.
just, so it's like, and New World doesn't always make sense.
Yeah.
So,
And that's fine. Like,
yeah, that's an understatement, I know.
Right, like I'm totally fine with if it's just like, okay, put a pin in it and next year when we go through this, we'll look at, have all these things broken. But to me, this is the time to ask those questions, and that's where I would disagree a little bit, because we just got this information and we're supposed to be going through this information and approving this budget. And so this is where I am gonna look and see, I'm not debating the value of anything, I'm just asking what these dollar amounts mean. And I think this is the time to ask that. So, and that's not my only question either.
Yeah, and just for clarification, I mean, we just got it because it was requested late.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that we're
Yeah.
clear on, had we requested it in the beginning, we could have got it in the beginning, but we didn't, we got it late. So,
Yeah.
I've requested this every year, and I'm also not part of the budget committee, so I didn't think it would be my place to request this at the beginning, the budget detail.
go ahead, Armin.
Yeah,
I mean-
any board member can request anything. They want to see something in budget, just send me an email or just tell me, like, I'd like to, I think we should look at this.
Mhm.
I'll request, I'll look at it in budget. I have no issue with that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as relative to this process, I don't feel like this was requested late. I feel like this is something that's been asked for every year. I don't care when I got it. I just, when I get it, then that's the time when I'm gonna ask the questions. That's all.
I mean, if I may say
Go
something
ahead.
about all these, about, stipends and stuff like that. I mean, personally, I think they should all go into the budget unless we're cutting a stipend because we're not doing that anymore, period, for whatever reason. But it should all go in there. Whether it runs or not, we don't know. Sometimes it's lack of staff, sometimes it's lack of student participation, but at least it's available for the students if they want it or need it. That's my personal feeling, because this, generally the stipends affect students more so than a lot of other things that we talk about, because it's activities for them, it's a club, whatever the case may be. So I'd rather see it all in there and not do some of it because we don't have staff to do it or the students don't want to do it. At least there's options and opportunities.
John?
And kids will sometimes recruit an advisor for a
Right.
stipend position too.
Correct.
If they're gonna lose
Right.
a position, they'll go out looking and
Yeah,
grab
just
somebody
say-
to do it. So
Mhm.
it should be in there so we can keep that option open.
Right.
That's, I think, what I'm just trying to get is, like, we can fix going forward how it appears in the budget, but, so to me, all that's relevant, and everyone has a different opinion, is did we cut a program? If we didn't cut a program,
Mhm.
and the stipends are all accounted for the programs that are contractual,
Mhm.
then I'm fine with the business manager making sure that we're accounting for all the stipends. If we're cutting something that's in the contract that we're not running on purpose because we're cutting something, I
Right.
think that's different.
We should know
That's
about
just the
that.
way I look
Mhm.
at it. It's just that we should be encompassing everything unless we're cutting something,
Mhm.
which I don't think we're cutting anything.
Right, no, right.
Right.
In
That's
fact, you
right.
can see that the amounts are the same.
So,
That's fine. I wasn't even disputing the numbers in here. I was just asking for
Yeah.
clarification on what the numbers represented.
yeah,
So,
no, because I'm just trying to understand to make sure, because I don't want to create work for them if it's not necessary to do it. If there's something that we're specifically looking for that he could just get us, I think it would be easier than, having him change right now how we've been running that number, but going forward at the next budget committee meeting,
Mhm.
maybe you guys can discuss the
Yeah.
stipends, how
Yeah.
you want to show them.
Yeah. And how often we'll look at them.
Mhm.
Because it will change by seasons, by time of year, whatever the case may be. Right?
well,
So-
do we at budget committee right now get updates on what are things that were budgeted for that we didn't end up utilizing?
Like, give me an example, because we do get, like, when Ed gives us the, where we are in the black or the red,
Right.
that encompasses, so if we're in the black right now, so we didn't use or didn't spend in a lot of stuff. Specifically, we talk about the big things, but we don't talk about the detail of what we didn't, you know what I mean? Was it, because we saved on,
Do those top lines.
like, yeah, right, we
Right.
don't do the detail of like, we
We
didn't,
usually May 1st, as
Yeah.
we did last year.
right,
Yeah.
You got it 4 times
Yeah.
in 2 months,
Yeah.
every account,
yeah,
Mhm.
so,
and you're gonna do it
Well,
again.
that's what I'm just thinking. There's no
Yeah.
reason to treat stipends differently if we don't get that type of detail in other things. That just happens to
Yeah.
be the thing we're talking about right now. The
Yeah.
next thing I'm gonna ask
Yeah.
about is the annuity line. And
Yeah.
that's it's a similar
Yeah.
type of question. It's just
Yeah.
a different line.
we just get the big things, so like, say, just take special ed, for example, okay, we might be in the black for special ed at whatever, $50,000, let's say, but where it is, it's probably in like 5 or 6 or more accounts within
Right.
special ed, right?
Yeah, so if
So-
you don't get that type of detail on
No,
a regular,
no,
which I
because
didn't
it's
think
just-
we did, which
They
is
do
why I
get- they
asked,
do
then you
get
don't
that.
need to.
You do get it.
Yes, you do,
You get
because you
every
do a
special ed
report.
account
Right.
that's detailed.
Right, but as
Yep.
far as like the minutia of, the actual, say, for instance, like you're talking about activities of, this club running or not club running, we don't get that.
You don't get National Junior Honor
Right, that's what I'm
Society
saying.
was expended in this month.
Yeah.
I don't know why why would you want to do that to yourself?
Yeah, I'm not saying
That
that.
that
I wasn't
happens
arguing.
at a
Right,
site
yeah.
and they
I
have
was
to
saying
monitor all
if
that.
stipends are
That just
equivalent to
seems
to
crazy.
these other smaller types of expenditures that we don't necessarily get updates on, you don't need to give me updates on stipends. This just
Yeah.
happens to be the first thing I was
Yeah,
asking
Right.
about.
okay,
Stipends are contractual, so
Yeah.
we have to pay them, so it's.
well, yeah, as long as they're running, as long as they're
Right,
being
Right,
used.
if it's
If it's
an
being used.
Things can be
activity
in the
and somebody's
contract that aren't
covering it,
necessarily
yes.
Being utilized.
Right.
though.
Right.
Right, but even within the monthly financials, I think, you know, what Ed is saying is and
Yeah.
Armin too,
Yeah.
what you'd see, what we used or what we didn't based on, especially as we get
Yeah.
closer and closer. And then Ed does the detail of
Right.
each of those accounts too. And then if anybody has any questions, certainly we
Right,
can
and
gather
ask
more
for more
information.
information,
Yeah,
maybe more
Sure.
detail, Ed always
Yeah.
gets it for us.
Yeah, right. What do you do?
Yeah, I wasn't asking for ongoing updates on stipends. I was just asking what this number means. That's all.
Yeah.
So,
Well, then to see it in some schools, but not others, it was just, I know I
Yeah.
was looking at that too.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, I'm just without knowing, like I have a tough enough time matching the
Yeah.
numbers
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And never
Sure.
mind the stuff that doesn't have the details, you're like,
Mhm.
wait, Ed, is that, what is that?
Well, like for example, and this is my last comment on it, is the all-city band for the
Mhm.
elementary schools. That's not gonna be in every site, but it includes all elementary schools,
Mhm.
correct?
Right.
So you
Which
might not
may
see
be
it in,
correct.
you might not see it in Vogel Wetmore, but you're gonna see it in Forbes. I don't know. I
Right.
don't know where it is.
And that's a
but-
good example
Yeah,
because
that's a
that's
good-
probably
All
why.
right, so
Exactly.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like some of
well,
it
yeah,
is,
and that answers my question.
Yeah.
I mean, my question was just what are these numbers represent?
Yeah.
That's literally all my question
Yeah.
was.
But if you
And-
add all the stipends, does it equal the stipends in the main budget, all the individual?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't personally tried
Yeah.
to add
That's-
them all up.
Yeah, I don't think that's the question. I
That's
just
not
think it's
the
the
question.
ability
Yeah.
to do a drill down. That's my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah. And
And see what the
yeah.
detail is.
the
Which,
ability's
Just a
there, do we
clarification.
do it to that detail? Generally, no. No, not unless we see something in the, like, hey, we want to look at this for whatever reason.
but there's no reason we can't,
Yeah.
or anybody couldn't ask for that detail as we go
Correct.
through the process. That's all.
Correct, yeah.
It just should be done more, maybe. Not more, but when you have a question, just ask it,
Mhm,
which I don't drill down enough probably, but
mhm.
you don't want me
Mm-hmm.
to. Just annoy you.
And we also just have to like,
More, you mean?
Yeah.
what's our responsibility?
Right, and
what's the
what's-
business manager's responsibility?
Right,
You know,
yeah,
we just gotta keep that all clear as far as,
yeah,
so if we have stipends in a contract, it's up to the business manager and the
Mhm.
accounting office and the business office to make sure all the stipends are accounted for.
Yep.
Yep.
If there's a change,
Mhm.
you know, if
Mhm.
you, central office decides to eliminate a program, I
Right.
think that should come to budget to say, we're voluntarily cutting this program.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Versus, we still want to run this program, but we can't find somebody
Right.
to run it. It's
Right.
different than
Right.
we've made an administrative decision to eliminate something that's in our contract as a stipend.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure, because I
Mhm.
think, you know, we all have different expectations of what we're expecting, and then I think some of us get frustrated, myself included sometimes, so is everyone okay with them just bringing to us if they're cutting stipends, or do we want them going forward? Because you can't really, so the district-wide band person is a perfect example, because wherever that employee works is where that stipend's gonna be paid out of.
right,
So unless we can follow all the people, which is
Right.
the same problem with a lot of the staffing, is when there's moves,
Right.
we don't know that,
Yeah.
nor should we
Yeah.
technically know that, so it's
or
really
if they're in
hard.
multiple buildings,
Right.
because then
Exactly.
they're
It's a
paid
whole
out of one
nother-
building
right.
generally,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Or,
Yeah.
or then they're split.
Or they're
and so why
split and
is
it's like, why
that?
do you only have,
and then grants.
Yeah.
It's 0.6, 0.4.
right, and
it's-
then the grant.
Right.
But I think
Right.
like, one
Exactly.
and not that we need to know every detail, but I think just like, once hearing that, then when you look here, right, because this becomes our budget and something that we're gonna put forward. Once you say something like that, then we look here and go, oh, okay, that
Mhm.
makes sense why we're seeing
Right.
big swings.
Mhm.
Right.
It's just when you don't know, you're looking at
Yeah.
everything being like,
Yeah.
wait, why is this down 24? Why
Yeah.
is this?
Right.
Because
Right.
you're trying to.
Yeah.
So when you have
understand,
questions, sure,
Yeah.
feel free
so I
to
think it's
ask.
just- I think it's just
Right.
this one time, if we could get the detail, then we'd understand better what lives in that.
Mhm.
And then maybe those questions won't arise again because now we know, oh, it's the band,
Yeah.
that's what's their
Right.
time, or.
Every year we've talked about, and it may be a good idea to do after budget season when we're slower. Do
When is
like,
Yeah.
well, maybe August, maybe, but if you did like a drill down to really understand all the accounts, then I think it
I was
would
gonna
make
say,
it
if you go
helpful.
backwards, it's easier
Go
to see rather
backwards,
than.
right,
Yeah.
but not at a time when you're trying to
No.
figure
When it's
out the
crazy, yeah.
numbers too,
Yeah,
but like,
which I
this
keep
is
saying
what
I'm
would
gonna
go
do,
in
and I never
here.
That's what I
because-
promised I would do, and I never did it, but that's the only way
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
ever get up to speed on this.
Yeah, but I think
Is it-
like even if we just sat in here and kind of went through each account, because some things are in certain accounts, because that's where the auditors require them to be in, even if we don't necessarily think they should be in there.
Right.
So it might be good just to have all of us get together and just kind of go through each account and,
Mhm.
you know, there's a much bigger backup that we certainly don't want to get all those pages, but
No.
as a frame of reference, it might be good.
Mhm.
And then if there are things like the stipends being in different categories, like we did with the special ed, then we can talk to the business office to see if maybe we could move some of that to make it cleaner.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, if there's a different way, but like,
Right.
you know, it's been put in there and like, in my understanding is, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, in New World, once it's in there, you can't delete it, but you can add something, right?
Correct, and
Yeah.
that's the problem,
And that's
the
because as
problem
you
with
want to
that.
clean it up,
Yeah.
then it's going to end up being a 500-page document, because because we tried to do that
You
once,
did.
and
Yeah.
then it was
Yes.
very,
Didn't
very
work.
confusing. Then people were like, the next year, how come this is zeroed
Yeah.
out?
Yeah.
What does that mean? We lost $5,000 in that program? Well, no, now we renamed it. Well,
Right.
where is that?
Yeah.
So it became, oh my God,
Yeah.
a bazillion times
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
So that was
Yes.
it. Some of this is just, we either have to say, we're not using New World and we're starting
Right.
clean, or we're gonna live with this. And
Yeah.
these are the titles, these are the labels, these are the line items that we live with.
That we're gonna use.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, and no one I've ever spoken to likes New World, ever. So we just have it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you inherit.
Is there an industry, is there something, not that we're gonna do it, but is there an industry package out there?
Not
that-
many people use this one.
That's what I
The
thought.
city
By
uses
one other
it.
school system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a more of a city.
For a
Yeah.
reason.
City.
That's-
Yeah, I guess
I know
so.
that that's.
Yeah.
You can say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually
The
say.
problem is Tyler owns all of these.
Yeah.
So Tyler owns Munis, New World, Information, and one other.
Yeah.
If they would combine all of them, they would save money.
Yeah.
And do it right,
That'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
because none of those programs can encumber payroll. So we have to do it ourselves on a different way.
Right.
Which is insane.
Yeah, which does not make sense for,
Correct.
but
Yeah, Blackbaud can, right?
Excuse me?
Blackbaud,
That I don't know.
I think they
What's it
can,
called?
Blackbaud, but it's
Don't know.
like probably 4 times more expensive
I
than,
don't know. But Tyler's does not encumber.
Yeah.
salaries.
Yeah,
So
crazy,
each month we have to do it ourselves.
just
and
insane.
it used to be 2 or 3 programs and then it went into New World.
Yes, it was,
So
that part was even worse. So it's
yes.
gotten better,
It's
but
gotten a lot
it's
better.
still, ugh,
Yeah,
we're still working within the confines of these boxes, so.
yep.
So future goals, John.
There you go, board goal.
Board goal,
Yeah.
Back to
board goal.
sick.
Yeah.
Send it back
Seek us a new
right.
policy.
Yeah. Policy, definitely more policy.
Thank you, John.
Oh, God, too funny.
So, Jess, are you okay with us looking at how we report the stipends in the future and moving forward with this budget with the understanding that nothing has been cut from the stipends?
Yeah, that's, I mean, I'm fine. All I was wondering was like, oh, here's a big number. I wonder what this means. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
literally what my question was. That's
Yeah.
all my question
Yeah,
was.
right.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
If I really want to, I'll go back and look at these numbers and look at kind and try to figure it out, but I'm not even sure that I want to. I just.
Right.
I thought that frankly would be a much easier question to answer than apparently it was.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh, good.
yeah.
I think it'd be wonderful at some point to be able to get a P&L, a journal ledger that you can actually read. You know,
yeah.
That too.
And it'd be nice if we had one that it was easy to export and sort things.
Well,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
functions
This
you
is
can get, right.
just-
I tried
Very
to unload
difficult.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
you
just a
can.
nightmare.
Yeah.
It'd be better to do it in
Get us
Excel,
some-
honestly.
Right.
You'd have more flexibility.
And you could do a VLOOKUp, it'd be so much easier.
So do I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did-
Or just?
Or do you want to
No.
have them address the questions?
Yeah, whatever. I
Yeah.
just am
Do
trying
you want to go
understand.
through those?
You want to go through the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a breakdown of the of the elementary, this is what we did last year.
No, it's okay. Oh, Gary, these ones are-
Does that
And,
have these or no?
Ally has it,
Yeah,
and
you
I
have
think
that?
Marissa has
Got
it as well. Ally has it, and then one for Ed. So this is just a further breakdown, and you can see the teachers this year, I mean, you have to remember that those teachers include the interventionists. So that's why those numbers are so high. And so then we had some teachers doing distance, some teachers doing in person, and some teachers doing both, unfortunately.
Show me what we're looking at.
Okay, so
I know enrollment.
that's a really good question. So if you look all the way to the right, okay, so
Okay,
if you
yeah.
look at projected enrollment for 2022,
Yeah.
all right, those numbers, the projected enrollment all the way down, then the sections, then the projected class size. So projected enrollment, except for that one, I think there was like a first grade, yeah, Vogel first grade. For the most part, these numbers are in sync. Because we talked a lot about kindergarten and that kind of kaflooey, and then the number of sections, and then the projected class size. So if you took out COVID year, right? If you took out this year and you went back to 1920, then you'd say, oh, that really looks like 1920. And the number of sections is the same. And so then when you look at projected average class size was probably about that. We want to, as I said last time, keep in that wiggle room in the Vogel because we don't know what's going to happen with kindergarten and first grade. And that way, we think we're going to get more first grade teachers, more kindergarten teachers, not more kindergarten students, first grade students. So we'll see where we have to put that person. So, or
Right.
we just need that flexibility, particularly at elementary this year, is basically the same song I've been singing this whole budget season, right? So that's why we weren't changing any sections. We weren't giving notice to any of our non-tenure teachers because we don't anticipate any layoffs. We really need all of our teachers. In fact, we'll be hiring more teachers to do all of the other programs that we spoke about.
John?
Did the kindergarten fair give us any better idea of what we can expect?
A little bit better. I think the numbers were very robust, right?
Yeah, we had a really nice turnout considering it was a virtual event.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
very well
wonderful.
done. Allie was actually there for the entire time, so she can speak to it. I just popped in a little bit. But we had like 160 people.
Yeah, so-
Absolutely. Like
Yeah,
one
it was-
math class alone was 80 people.
Yeah,
It was a
Wow,
really,
that's
Wow.
really
It's really
well attended
wonderful.
and very well received.
What
Yeah.
was this?
So if we
The
can
kindergarten
get
fair
them
last
to start
Saturday.
now registering, that was the whole,
Right.
you know, you've participated several times. So then the parents are able to say, okay, now I'm going to register. Now's the time. I am going to have my kindergartner come now. Or my child's been home, I've been doing homeschooling, or they've been doing some other learning, and now they're going to come to first grade. So it just reminds folks that we're back in the mode of school for fall. So jump on board.
So we continue to expect at least what we're projecting.
Correct. So, yeah,
Good
and
projection.
we feel good about that. Because we'll get our kindergartners back and hopefully have a relatively normal year, which would be great.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, in-person learning. So,
Any other questions on enrollment?
What would we do? So like right now we've got at Torrington, second and third grade
Mhm.
sections, average class size of over 21.
Mhm.
Yep.
What would we do if all of a sudden you had a glut of people register
Sure.
that aren't in our numbers?
Same thing we do every year. We would hire a teacher.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean,
Mhm.
you know this to be the case. It just feels weird because of COVID. But my crystal ball is broken and we will wait to see who shows up. Very often during the summer, you have kids in, out, you know, a lot of movement. And I think that we'll have probably even more this summer than we ever have had, not in terms of, you know, kids moving in and out so much, but okay, parents are feeling much more comfortable. People have gotten the vaccinations. It's just, we're moving forward. And so we're going to send our kids and
But
it'll be
that's
good.
something like Sue said, just principals do it every year. I can remember. and
Yeah,
we do over the
absolutely.
summer. That was a real stress point for a principal, right? Like
Yeah.
come August,
Sure.
when all of a sudden your numbers were teetering on that verge of yikes, and you're calling central office and saying, superintendent, I need to add a section.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's what happens.
And that, you know, we're very used to that. It's okay. I mean, Kim's probably cringing right now that I said that. It's not that it's okay because it falls on Kim, but, and certainly this year will be harder to find teachers than any
Yeah.
other year. But we really do need to monitor the numbers very closely, and we do. Yeah, as principals at the site, as central office, we continue to do that. Really on a weekly, sometimes it feels like, especially as we get closer on a daily basis.
Yeah.
As problems go, that's a good one.
Yeah, yes,
Right.
true.
And then you have to find the room and then the
Yep.
desks and.
Right, that was gonna be, so do we have
Yep.
rooms in these buildings that could be utilized for additional sections?
Yeah, so we've had extra sections at Vogel, so they've had some sections of 8 before, so we know that there's rooms there. Torringford as recently as, I believe, I don't know how many years ago, but recent in the last 3 years, they've had at least 2 sections, if not 3 sections of 8 and 1 section of 7. Forbes would be a little tight. I'm sure Joanne is cringing right now as I'm saying that. But she probably could add 1 more section. Southwest, same thing. They're tight, but they probably could add another section. But we're anticipating those numbers to be more consistently projected in 4 or 5 than the K3. That's where
Right.
that's a
Yeah.
little tougher for all the reasons that I just
Right.
expressed.
Go ahead, Nikki.
I wasn't sure if this was just a typo, but
Mhm.
6th grade is showing 227. You had 294 last time, and I wasn't sure if that was what we thought or.
She did think that, but I see what you're saying because I'm concerned now too, because it
Yeah.
does show it, the high school, the very same number.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
that's
I was more looking at the elementary, I'm
Yeah, no, I
sorry.
get it.
But I'll get you that number tomorrow morning just to verify. It could possibly be 227,
Your book,
based on how weird.
you had higher here, that's the only reason why. I'm
Yeah,
asking.
so then I would say, what's the number in there?
294.
Yeah, so I bet that's what happened. It was a typo.
What was
And
it
she
for the
just
ninth
picked
grade?
up
227.
for the 9th grade, because remember, we
227.
do
In the book,
unfortunately
yeah.
have students who go.
Oh, no,
choose
no, I know
others.
that, yeah.
Yeah, they all match
You got
what
the
you had
choices.
projected, except for that one, so I just wanted to double check.
I'm sorry?
They all match what you had presented in the full thing, so. that's why I just wanted to-
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions on enrollment?
Just one quick question, not really related to this, but it is enrollment. How many kids a year, somebody asked this question about the high school, do we lose to Wolcott Tech? Do you, how many Torrington kids go to Wolcott Tech? Any idea?
305.
So,
305. I thought it was in the sheet
I
you
think-
gave us.
That's a combined, right?
yeah,
That's
So-
9 to 12.
9 through
Oh,
12.
That's the total.
yeah, so I was gonna
So
say,
divided by 1.
probably,
No.
90,
I-
80
Yeah.
kids?
I don't want to add the other magnets, and that's where I think I'm getting glitched up. It could be about 80.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 80 to 100, depending on the year.
Mhm.
Like I said,
Mhm.
over the past 2 years, we've still gotten more students back, where they've changed their mind in August, which has been really nice. So
Right.
we want to see more of a trend that way.
They're down from just looking October. It was 315 last year, it's 305. this year.
Yeah, I saw the change in your number. Do
Mhm.
we have any idea how many kids get rejected? We have-
We can find out. I don't know off the top of my head.
There's a reason why. If you could find out, it'd be great.
Yep.
Has to do with the new high school.
Yeah, I think we should track that as we move forward. Yep.
Yeah.
How many apply, how many are rejected? Yep,
Yeah, one of the
yep,
concerned citizens.
sure.
Not everybody got in over there like it used to be, but
No,
I said, no, that's not the case anymore.
No,
I know, I know it's not.
And,
Right.
What you
It's
see
almost
is
like a
the
private.
family.
Yeah,
If
no.
you look at who's in the 12th grade and who's in 9th. You can see the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, there's a-
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's
For
a
sure.
legacy
Yeah.
policy over there.
I think some kids go there and they realize it's really vigorous for college
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they don't want to go there. So they come back.
Yes. Well, I mean, I just think it doesn't necessarily fit their needs.
Yeah.
Correct,
so-
correct. That's what I
Yeah.
was trying to say.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes,
you.
it doesn't.
Sure.
Said it much
All right,
better.
any other questions on enrollment?
Nope.
Next,
Dues and fees.
Every budget meeting, I think I ask for what that is.
Okay.
You're about to find out, Ellen.
No, I do, I find out
And then we
every
just
budget
have to go
meeting and
back
then
to
the next one
annuities.
is like, okay, what's in here?
Dues and fees,
'Cause
they
I'm always
asked
right.
about,
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you. Gary.
and
You have that.
the Board of Ed takes care of CABE, NESDEC, and Ed Advance.
Which one is that that takes care of all those?
Where it says BOE
BOE.
underneath admin.
Underneath that.
for Yep,
Oh,
you see,
okay.
right underneath,
So BOE is what, Cave?
Cape,
Cape.
NASDAQ.
And NESDEC and Ed Advance.
The cave is like what, 10,000 or something?
No, I don't think it's that much. Maybe
CABE
close.
was
up.
14,469.
It's even more. Yeah. Mhm.
This year, I should say.
Yeah, it used to be 10,000.
Yeah, it did.
Do things.
So I have one quick question on that for next year. Do we need CABE? Not for today, but to consider.
It's probably,
I read their stuff. I don't particularly care for it, but that's just me. I'm not the decision maker, so.
probably not a conversation for this meeting.
Yeah.
No, I said not for this meeting,
Yeah,
but to
but-
think about.
Okay.
When do we discuss cuts to the budget?
Well, that's next time. Well, I don't know. When do we discuss them? I didn't.
Well,
read
I'm
it for
sure
that reason.
this is what, does it go from, does the membership go from July to
Yeah,
June?
we get a bill July 1.
Yeah, so we, so we have time to discuss it and we can say we don't want to do it anymore, or we do want to do it at another time, I would think.
So we would have that discussion after we get our number back from the city before we make final decisions on what we want? Or will we discuss? Because I would like to cut CABE. I haven't heard, unless somebody can correct me, I haven't heard that we're getting $14,000 worth of resources from them. And I'm not impressed with some of the materials that they put out. And it's optional. We've cut it in the past and then we re-added it during this period of time I was on the board. And my personal opinion is maybe that's $14,000 we don't need to spend. But if that's a discussion that you would rather
I don't know,
have
I'm just saying.
after we
that-
get, we're talking about what number we want to put forward to the city, right? So
What
I'm
do
just
we
throwing that
know
out there.
what is included in that amount?
I think that should be for afterward, but
Okay.
well, I think, because what I would like to know
I
is
don't
how
wanna take
much
it on
the
that.
administration,
Yeah,
central office uses CABE.
right, that's what I'm gonna say. We
Policy
it's
uses
not
it
just us.
heavily.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
that
I
would be-
was really annoyed with CABE this year because they opened it up to all non-member districts and didn't give a refund to any of the member districts, which I found really annoying
Don't wanna do
because
that
they
to you.
all got the same thing that we got, but they didn't have to pay for it.
really.
And they weren't willing to reimburse the districts that did pay. So, and that was all year. They got all the services, every district had all the services. So, I will say at the beginning of the pandemic, it was helpful.
Yeah.
Because it was a caveat to be able to discuss things with the other board chairs, which we wouldn't have had if in this situation, we would have because they opened it up to everybody, but
We didn't know they were gonna do that.
we didn't know they were
Yeah.
gonna do
Right,
that.
right.
And the one thing that I think has been positive is the listserv, the board chair listserv, which is active every single day of things that come through with, other board chairs ask questions and everyone in it's a group of probably 20, I copied John on them, so he gets them all too, and they'll like negotiate and kind of
Right.
hash these things out in that format. But to me, that's good because it's like one person will chime in and say, we already checked with our attorney and here's the answer. And they'll provide exactly what the attorney said. So then we don't have to pay our attorney to look at that.
Right.
But other than that, some of the other things is, John knows I'm probably the most hated member on those Thursday calls, but we have an agenda, right? And they're pushing an agenda.
Mhm.
And they're known for that. And that's why I'm saying, I think it should be discussed later, see what we have left. because they do have an agenda, and it becomes difficult sometimes on this side to
Mhm.
understand what their purpose is. You know, besides being the support, and I
Well,
don't know
something-
exactly what they do. I read their stuff, but I
Yeah.
don't want, it's not for tonight.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, I don't think.
Yes, I mean, we could
Yeah.
discuss it maybe at school improvement
Yeah,
before we get our final
I'd
number
be
back.
delighted to discuss that
That's
at
fine.
school.
And that way, maybe, because I don't know
yeah, I
like
think
who
that's,
at
I think
central
that's a good
office,
idea, right?
if they
because-
use it, they
right.
don't use it, I don't know. So I
Yeah.
think we should really kind of vet out
Right.
what it.
Yeah.
'Cause
This
I
way-
don't-
Provised.
Yeah, they
Right.
can, they can come up with information of how they use it and
Right,
get it to us.
and that way, by the time we get our number, I mean, it's such a small percentage of our budget.
Right, it's not gonna, it's
Yeah.
not gonna change it. It's not
Yeah.
gonna change our budget.
If we were to cut it in June.
Right.
When we
Hopefully
get
our
our
budget
number.
doesn't
Next
change.
Wednesday's budget,
Yeah.
or next Wednesday's agenda, Sue,
Did you want me to add that?
would you please?
Sure.
Put it at the end, so if we don't get to it, we don't get to it. That
Yeah.
way, anyone who wants to discuss it will have a chance.
Do you want to do it then or May, the May meeting? You have a
Well,
full-
we're talking, Armand is right. We will be looking for things to cut. And if that's going to get cut this year, if we're going to be
Mhm.
cutting this year, that might be one of the vulnerable things. And if we discussed it in April, we would have a better idea going into those discussions. If we wait,
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think, looking at the state budget, I'd be surprised if we have a number before the end of May, early June.
well, I'm not worried about the state. I'm thinking more of the Board of Finance.
Yeah, they won't give us our budget though until the state finalizes theirs, because they don't know how much revenue they're gonna get
Yeah.
until they finalize their
Okay,
stuff.
well, it'll be on the agenda. If we get to
Yeah.
it, we get to it. If we don't, we don't.
Well, and if we know that it's a topic, it will be a topic of discussion, we would just hold off on paying for the upcoming year until we were certain that the board wanted to continue with the service.
It's July 1 anyway, right?
Excuse me?
It's a July 1 payment anyway.
Yeah. And you might, we might decide that we don't want to do it anyways, and we're gonna just
Right.
cut it no matter what the budget is.
Yeah.
So,
That's fine. And just for the record, it used to be $10,000.
yeah, I know.
The last time we had this conversation
Yeah.
about cutting it versus keeping it.
Yeah, it was 10.
And at that time, we did cut it for a couple of years, I think,
Yeah.
so
Start email
it's
us
gone up a
while
lot.
you're board chair.
We had to pay for all those other
Cut your own.
districts that didn't pay.
Right. Any other questions on this document?
Nope.
Next.
You asked about administrative salaries and annuities.
Actually, I do have one other question, just, maybe when we're looking at CAVE, we can also look at the NISDEC, like what that one does for us. because-
They do a lot for special ed
Oh, okay,
and for enrollments.
I thought we hired them in a
Yeah.
superintendent search, and I thought,
No, they do. a lot.
They keep updating for us the
Yeah.
enrollment projections, which I think is going to be important, especially as we have the building project. So
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I think that if it's a nominal amount, it really helps us, because otherwise we would have to try and figure that out.
yeah, which is tough.
It's a lot
It's
of
coming.
hot water.
And what other stuff goes in the, sorry, what other
It's,
stuff goes in?
Ellie, do you have
Like
this?
signs, would it be like
There you go.
anything else you don't like it?
membership stuff?
Ed,
Some of that stuff.
Do you have
thank
anything
Some
else
of that stuff is
for-
broken out
for Ms.
in
Harrell?
the sites.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for the board of ed one, which is why I
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to know what CAVE was. and what that
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
So what happened in the past is everything was lumped into salaries, annuities and so forth, some of them. So what I've done is moved out, and if you look in your 161 pages, the administrative salaries.
In your new one that you received.
New one. That doesn't include, you'll see that's a bigger number because that's the principals, but there's 867,464 in there for administrative salaries and 98,639 for annuities. It was broken out. Before they had some in salaries and some in annuities.
You can't look this year, you're saying.
Correct.
Got it.
okay, so the,
Does this include the future? I mean, we are plan on hiring some more administrators or no? Or is this?
Well, this includes all of the administrators that are here. The central office administrators.
They're current though, like we're talking about.
And the
hiring some-
ones out of GB, not the ones in grants.
yeah,
Not the one in about?
Not the ones
the
in
ones in
grants.
How about for Kim's department? What were we talking about there?
So yes, that's on this other
That's on the
page.
other
That's,
page.
yeah. But, and
Okay.
that we'll talk about tonight.
All right.
But Ed didn't add any of that stuff
That's
yet.
what I meant.
Yeah,
Because,
we
yep,
haven't voted on those
Yeah.
items,
So-
so nothing.
Oh, that's true.
we
can
can't
add
add
to
it
the budget
until you
yet.
do that.
Let's look at 29, 30. Okay. $29,000 increase.
Any questions on the annuities and stipends?
No?
Or not stipends, annuities,
Yeah.
Oh, no.
salaries.
Well, I
Annuities
have
and
a-
salaries.
I have a question on annuity that I don't think is covered on this sheet.
Go ahead.
So in the budget, in the same section, it's in district-wide, it's actually shortly after the salaries, executive director, student services superintendent, et cetera, those. Then there's secretary, clerical, and then line 5231.01 says administrator annuity union, 40,317. And then non-union annuity, 41,690. And that was kind of what my question was, is what did those numbers comprise? Because I understand that the administrator annuities are factored in to the salary. So then I just was wondering what
They're
those,
not factored into the salary. The administrative annuities are 40,316.71. And that's all of the principals, assistant principals.
Were they in the original budget?
No, they were never in the original budget. They were never in the salary. They were always in the annuities.
see, but like right in here, it just says administrator salaries, superintendent 194,997, which according to this sheet, let's see, is
In 2021.
But you're not in the new, you're not in
Are
the
you in the
one.
new one?
You're
or
not
they
in
all-
the
not,
new
you mean
one.
the one we received today?
Yes.
No, I
Oh,
haven't
that's
even.
where-
Yeah,
reviewed the
so
old
that's
copy.
where it is. It's
Right, so-
cleaned up.
So this line item in the one that we received last week
It's wrong. The new one,
is not in
we
here
moved everything out.
anymore?
You look in the new one, it
Yep.
shows you what each salary is.
Yeah, and the salaries match up with the amounts that you see.
Yes. If you take a look
on
at
this
it, it's in
sheet.
there.
I haven't been able to look at it yet because I just got it today, so.
So you're saying because you cleaned this up. in that
Correct,
new
it's in the new
version-
one.
Yes,
Right
just to
in
make
here.
it easier
yeah, yeah.
Total
because,
dollars are the same.
yeah,
More
Right, it's just
transparent.
which-
Broken
yes, it just
down.
makes it easier for people to read.
Right.
Yeah,
Where we can provide clarity, we're
Yes,
trying to.
Absolutely, and it's more and more each time.
so you said, the administrator is the principal, assistant, and then non-union is a central office.
Correct.
I can't access that document on my phone, so I'm gonna have to look at it on my phone. So, thank you.
Which,
The new one that we just got
We
today.
could probably just make copies of those pages.
What do you want me to do? I mean, it's fine. If you're telling me that in there it looks different than in here, then I'll just look
Yeah,
at it. I mean,
It's
I
reflective
don't doubt
of
you. I
this.
just, in
Yeah,
here, it was all, again, all lumped
Yeah.
together and not
That's- yeah.
delineating what it is, which is why I was
right,
wondering,
which
what
is
this?
why we separated it out.
You can, you look at it, here's the Director of Student Services. 159, 181, 159, 180, 110, they're all in here.
So, yeah, so you'll be able to see it when you get home.
Thank you.
If, yeah,
I'm sure it's a mess. Trying to load it on my computer, the file was already. like,
Yes,
gone. The whole-
exactly.
yeah.
too big.
exactly.
This one's like, no, no, no.
All right, any other questions on the salaries, annuities? there anything?
I have
else?
one more question to
Yeah,
have.
go ahead.
Communications is the general ledger.
Communications is comprised of what?
Phone.
Thank you.
That's
Phone.
what communication
phone
is.
bill.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, it's the phone.
Yeah,
That would have sufficed, you know?
Well,
yeah.
You know, I won't say anything. I've been doing this for 53 years. You know what we're doing.
Nobody's questioning that.
Well,
Okay, well,
you
there's
won't need to
literally,
question me any longer anyway, so.
there's literally a line item that says communications $130,000 with no additional detail. It's not an unfair question to just ask what that is. It's in the technology budget towards the end.
Right, because it's Gain Communications who does our desktop phones, you know, the communication throughout the district. Then you've got Sprint, you've got Frontier, you've got Cablevision. You have so many different services. So once again, New World has always encapsulated into communications.
Right.
And so this is the backstory of all of that.
The general ledger has to be 5,000 pages long.
That's right, right?
Exactly,
And I have to
'cause
print
it's
it to
just
the, When we
insane.
send it to the auditors, it's almost 2,000 pages.
What were you gonna
Yeah.
say?
So crazy.
Wow.
That is crazy. Well, it's like something like this, and I know it's not you guys' fault, 'cause I know it's a system, but if, instead of it saying communications and then communications, if it said communications and then like phone bills or something like that, like, I wouldn't have had a question, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
It's
I
just-
know.
And it's not your, I know it's not your fault.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
just
how it's-
crazy, because
it
then
is,
we'll
it's just-
zero
it
out
doesn't
communications,
explain
you'll be
it.
like, what? And then we'll
Right.
put phone bills, and then it'll be
Yeah.
like, okay, why did, you know, 5 years or 10 years or whenever it's a different board, they'll be like, okay, that makes no sense. Why did they do that? Why do they have this blank item? And then that's exactly what happens, because the whole history stays there, and it's crazy.
Does it let you alter the line item?
No,
No,
Not at all.
it's
create a
either
line.
you,
you have to give it a new, you have to
Yeah.
assign it a new account number.
yeah. An account number,
Right.
a new
That's
name,
awful.
if you like, if you want to change the name, you have to.
Because it's
Change.
accounting what you've
Yes.
ever done,
Right.
and
Yeah.
all the
Yes,
history to
Because if you
protect
change the
us.
name, right, because if you
Yeah.
change the
Name,
name,
it's
one
right.
year it's communications, the next year it's, say,
Phone bill.
just
Yeah.
cable.
Yeah.
Or
But you open a
communications
new one for
parentheses,
cable.
phone bills.
You can't,
Right,
Yeah, no, it's
Exactly.
great. Once you create it and put $1 in it,
Yeah.
that's what we
Correct.
found out.
That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Then
problem.
you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
get rid of it
Right.
or change it. It comes like a gray area, the title.
Mhm.
It's
So,
awful.
just one question.
Technological zombie.
Those around, I
Yes.
remember when we tried to put the negative dollars in to get rid of
Yes.
some, and
Yeah.
it blew up on us. This was a few years ago,
So question for
before
Ed.
your time, Ed.
Ed,
Gary, go ahead.
for Ed, really, what would it cost to convert to a system that everybody understands? I'm just curious. I have no clue.
Right.
Could be 50 to 100,000.
Mhm. Yeah. And
But simpler.
and that, but preparing it
As you
to go
remember,
into
when
the
we
new
went
system.
to
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Would be
this
the
will
Right.
not-
hellacious,
Yeah.
yeah.
system for people checking in
Time
every
clock,
day,
right.
you know, the time
Time
sheets.
and
You
Yep.
know, remember, we saved a ton of money. They wanted 60 to 100,000. We
Right.
got it for like
50,
35,000.
yeah.
you know,
Right.
so.
I'm
We
saying,
gotta integrate.
This is a
We
huge,
talked to the
huge,
city a
huge,
couple years ago
undertaking.
about
Mhm.
No, I
Yeah.
know it
getting
changes.
on
We
board
did.
with us all changing our system.
Yeah, I'm not sure they love it either. I think that
Yeah,
it's
it's
just that
bizarre.
we've all
Right.
used it, and then to change would be such a monumentous event.
Yeah.
Exactly, that
Absolutely.
people say, it's
Mhm.
too daunting, we're not gonna
right,
take
because
it
you
on.
can't transfer this at all. You can't. put
Yeah, I
it
don't
into
even
a
know
new
how they
company.
would do
Yeah.
the
We have to
export
run
of it.
parallel.
Right,
right.
Yeah.
right.
Well, but what happens when it leaves and you have to hire somebody who doesn't understand it? I mean, how many people will understand the system?
Not many.
I mean,
It's
you know, I
really
have an
hard.
accounting degree, and it's still
Mhm.
impossible for me to fully understand how line items like this one, for instance, which I didn't even look at. Because if I look at it, I'm gonna ask this, you know, you're gonna say, well, what is it? And
Right.
then there's 100 questions. I mean,
Mhm.
it's gonna have to be eventually done to allow for people who haven't spent 50 years, 30 years doing it to understand it. Otherwise, we're gonna have somebody here who doesn't understand the system and we're gonna drive them crazy.
Mhm.
Truthfully, I mean,
Mhm.
you just happen to know the system.
Unfortunately.
Well, like I said, there's nobody else who uses it. So
I
who's gonna
think a lot
qualify?
of it is because it's public money, not private money,
Yeah.
which is why there's all these weirder requirements and
Right,
not being
yeah.
able to change the name
Yeah.
of an account.
Right.
Right.
May be more important when you're using taxpayer money than
Yes,
if you're
of
a
course.
private
Yep.
Well, of course
company.
it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, but we're only one of two people that use it, so
But-
somebody's using
Yeah,
another system.
no, there's other systems. Carmen,
Yeah, but I would imagine that, well, I know the city uses it and that's a big reason why we use it. But I would imagine you're still probably gonna have some of those same issues with another system,
another company,
not
yeah.
deleting an account because, like you said, I mean, all that money needs to be accountable for years back because it's public money, and you want to reduce the risk of any tampering and any fraud. So I think every system's gonna have their
Right.
downfall, but you've worked with other systems, so I'm sure you like other systems better, so, which is, well, it is what it is, right?
Yeah,
So,
you're not gonna change with the money.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes for the sake of efficiency and hiring the right people, it might be worth it.
whoever wrote that program had no accounting experience.
Right.
They don't understand that.
Right.
Right.
All right, anything else before, was that,
I think we have a
All of
social
them.
studies question. right?
oh, social studies, right.
So can you just ask the question?
Well, my question on that was in the CIAT budget. There are some textbooks, it says materials to align with new SS standards,
In the,
social issues books
To,
for $15,000.
the 14,
And I was
What is
asked, my
it?
question was, what is that?
curriculum instruction
What is-
assessment
What are
technology.
those materials?
Yeah.
So right now, we're going through a curriculum review process and we're deep into the humanities, CCDLA and social studies 6 through 12 right now. It was in the budget last year too, so it just really is allowing the social studies department at the secondary level to infuse more contemporary
Mhm.
instructional materials into their program. They spent some money last year. I think we had like 22,000 in there last year.
Mhm.
So that might, oh, go ahead.
And then Ellen,
And that's part of the new state's humanities requirements
Right.
within the curriculum, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
There's new
And that's been
standard-
around for,
Yeah.
I want to say, almost 5 years now, right?
Yeah.
Probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
They at least came out with it and then they, and they want you to move on it, so.
Right. We just want them to have the flexibility that as they update their curriculum, if there's a new resource that they want to use, that we have the funds available for them to purchase it.
Those are the planning people. I don't see IAT.
These are the two.
No,
Oh,
this is
sorry.
just,
CIAT is just really an old, again, that's.
Yes.
Curriculum and instruction.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Office of Teaching and
it's
Learning.
like technology,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Office of Teaching and Learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
but that's not who would make the decisions.
Oh, no, the social studies teachers are the ones that are working on the curriculum, so they would work as a department
Right.
to decide what they want, and then
Yeah.
they come to me or to the Office of Teaching and Learning and say, hey,
Right.
and then we have a process where, that we vet out the resource and, everybody
Yeah.
looks at it and.
These are all supplemental. It's not like you're
Yeah.
saying, okay,
Oh,
we're
right, it's not
doing
a
an
textbook
adoption.
adoption.
Yeah.
No.
And
If
it-
it's a novel or if it's just another, resource that they want to use, something more contemporary. It's been a long time since we've
Yeah, updated.
had anything.
So it might not be a physical book. It could be like
Could be
a
online, right?
website or,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
or
could be
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
Software.
software
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
license
you know,
to
an
something
event
so
or-
they have
right,
access.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Marissa just sent that she converted that document to PDF and resent it to us all, so now you can
Oh.
open it. So
Nice.
You go,
Thank you.
Marissa.
Wow.
So this is something that comes up after the fact, after the budget. So with all these curriculum changes to the high school and middle school, is that enough? If that's what, I don't know what it was either. I didn't know what the group meant, but do we have enough to convert our curriculum or to create a
It's not
curriculum?
really a conversion, it's just really.
You're
you know,
enhancing it.
Yeah.
Right,
Or so is there
exactly.
enough to
It's-
enhance what we have forthcoming in the next 2
Supplement.
years? Or you'll just,
Well, this is for 1 year.
I don't know what's involved.
Right, this
It
is
is.
for 1 year. I don't remember if we expended the whole 22,000 last year. I think we did.
I mean, with all these pathways and everything else,
Yeah.
we're not gonna under design or under create what we need.
No, I would say that I would anticipate that going forward, as we get closer to, solidifying
Yeah,
some
we're
of
gonna
that, then we'll be asking for
for more
more,
money.
but right now.
Well,
it's-
that's what, okay, I get it.
I feel
Because we're building it.
Yeah.
confident that that's an okay number.
We don't want to buy more than we can move. No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, that's the other
That too.
That's the other thing. So you wanna-
So when things show up in the CIAP budget, like the materials to align with NGSS, we don't have specific materials in mind to create that number. That's just
Oh,
a
no,
line item
Oh, no,
to,
we do. So the NGSS, right now, we're using a curriculum that's in specific bundles. And those are supplies that are needed for specific experiments and that kind of thing. So that's how that number is arrived at. I mean, it's gonna sound really basic when I tell you, we need paper towels and we need magnets, or we need,
Yeah.
copper
Consumables.
wire,
Right.
or, that kind of thing.
well, that's what I would assume it would
Potting
be.
soil.
That's so when I see materials to align with new standards, social issues books, that to me makes it sound like you have specific books in mind and this is how much they'll cost. So it's not the case in that line item.
No.
We don't have any specific books in mind. That would come to me from the social studies department.
So maybe the problem's not the system, it's the acronyms. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, it's-
Well,
it's the
forget
la-
that, because
it's-
education,
yeah.
hey,
It's
we
the
need a
labeling.
translation. for
But when you're
everything.
going through a budget like this, you
Yeah,
can't
no,
change anything.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
We'll have to have a syllabus of all these.
Yeah, and
Sorry
oh,
about
Nikki, I'm
that.
sorry,
Yeah,
Nikki.
no,
Not your fault.
No, my only question was gonna be as text, I think we have a policy where, similar to like we review new courses, we review additions or textbooks.
But these aren't
These
textbooks.
are
No,
just
no, no, I know, and I think that's where my
supplementals.
question's going, is like, as textbooks become less important,
Should we change the policy?
like, yeah, does that policy need to be relooked
Ellen?
at to now? Because I would imagine, I mean, just this alone's going down. Looks like the money's shifting, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
and you're exactly right, because that's what's going on in education. It's shifting to more online resources, supplemental resources and things like that. Even textbooks are online, and so,
Right, and if that's still in the purview of the board, how do we?
So you can add that verbiage. I think here, we just want to clarify that, like Sue was saying, you're talking about paper towels, potting
Yeah, no, I get
soil,
that.
those kinds of things. Or, if you're talking about books that the teachers are saying, I have to have something to align with the new curriculum that's coming down from the state, and I've got to have something, or the state's going to be providing X, Y, Z. Those are things that were mandated and we have to make sure that we have
Right.
to
And if-
enhance our program.
Right, and if what's hanging you up is where the social issues, if that's where you're coming from. At the prologue in the course of studies manual at the high school to the social studies department is, it's really short, I'll just read it to you. The social studies department promotes a program of active student participation in the learning process. The student will develop knowledge of the many factors shaping human behavior and the interdependence of people. In addition, students will demonstrate an ability to make rational, informed decisions about economic, social, and political questions confronting individuals and society as a whole. Students will master skills in locating, compiling, and weighing evidence and will be able to identify how change and continuity have created current conditions at the local, state, national, and global levels. So, I think we have an obligation to stay current and look at what instructional materials are out there and give our teachers the ability to, to have some choice and to have options as they become available to meet this goal.
Yeah, I'm not saying not to have it in there. I was, again, just asking what it is. Because in other places where books are being ordered, it tells you specifically what the book is. And here it does not tell you what the book is. So,
Right, and again, just to be clear, it's not necessarily going to be a book, right? It's just an instructional material.
yeah, I get what that says both things.
One of the things that I think people are are getting hung up on is the idea of materials, because I think the state recently, and being current in education, is coming down with things, and they're saying, okay, we want you to do this, but you have the flexibility within this. This is, you know, to do it this way, that way, or another way. So it's opening up, I guess, the opportunities for teachers to use various resources instead of just saying, well, there's like 3 textbooks out there, you got to pick a textbook.
Unless you're talking about now K-5 reading because.
Right, but I'm talking secondary, secondary,
Right.
right, secondary. They're kind of like, and that's kind of like the way it's kind of going, like even with like the humanities and the NGSS, the science things and things like that. They're not necessarily saying that you have to do this particular lab, but these are some suggestions that you can do. So
Yeah.
that's what I've
Yeah.
seen in the last, probably 8 years.
Yeah.
Slowly been been going that way. So,
Yeah.
So,
They've even talked about virtual labs when you're talking about
yeah,
science,
well, we do,
right?
yeah,
You
they do
know,
virtual
all of
labs.
that,
We're not
right,
doing any
instead of
labs
having
except
the-
virtual
yeah.
this year, so, which is crazy.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
so there's no text,
Definitely
there's
expands
no
that
textbook
definition.
or even a beaker for that one.
Yeah, right.
Like is
Exactly.
the term textbook?
Yeah, so the supply might be
Yeah,
the
may
the
need to
software.
Be online.
Replaced
could be
for-
with-
software, could
yeah.
be-
Yeah. So,
Yep.
It's the terms.
Mhm.
yeah, so it's not necessarily books anymore.
Right.
Well, that's where I think that's a good idea that Nikki had to look at the policy.
Mhm.
Because it used to be the board has some ownership over what is being presented to the students.
Mhm.
And therefore this is why we approve textbooks.
Mhm.
But if you're not using textbooks anymore, now all of a sudden the board has no idea what's being presented to students,
Mhm.
which isn't necessarily our responsibility in the little things, but big picture,
Mhm.
maybe
Right.
that's, yeah.
Ellen needs something else to do. anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Ellen hasn't had any meetings.
We have a
lately, so
year to
we-
make that, right?
I know,
Wow.
wow. Think of the possibilities.
But I gave it all to John, so John really had it, so.
You gotta do
It's
2
not that I
years in
didn't
1
have
year. Ellen.
There you
He
go.
had it all.
Wow.
Gary, did
Careful,
you
we'll
have
take over
something?
your whole budget.
No, it's probably school. I was just thinking, it's just philosophically.
Yeah.
Do you think we're gonna get away from, I mean, everybody thinks we're gonna go away from books or textbooks, but given what we, good, you're saying. no,
Yeah.
right.
You have to have a
Not-
combination.
Yeah, not 100%. Not anytime
Hopefully
soon.
Not even close to 100.
Students, there's students that still like books.
Optometrists are gonna
Yeah.
be making millions in a few years.
Yeah, right.
Psychiatrist.
Yeah. They're making it happen.
Yeah, really.
I just have one
Go
small
ahead,
question
Nikki.
on the budget that I noticed. Page 35 or 56, just a quick question. It looks like ESL, I think we're gonna talk about that.
35 of
Um,
56,
Oh, I
which
have
one are
this,
you in?
Um,
Are you in the old one?
I think
Is
so.
it-
Oh, I'm in the
two?
one-
Okay,
The
hang-
first one I got.
Okay, okay. let me-
222,
And that's the
21?
small one, right?
Yeah.
30
Yep, that's a
Right,
small.
okay.
Yeah. 222.
35?
Page 35, like that first line. And what stood out to
What
me was,
first line?
sorry,
What number?
Torrington ESL, the para
Yeah,
is down significantly.
might be because they moved.
I just know Torrington was a hot
Um,
student count, I feel.
The staffing change?
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
I'm
is that-
wondering.
Is that the one, didn't
Ki-
one,
She
Lee?
may, well, that's what I'm wondering. Kim, do you want to speak to that? Torringford, ESL, para, did we lose one, move, not get
Not that I-
replaced?
Not that I'm aware of. They have 2 paras at Torringford, and as far as I'm aware, there's 2 for next year.
is one out of
Wonder if it's-
Esser?
We-
It's one out of
Oh.
grant,
Oh, that, yes,
move one out of grant. It's
Yep.
a grant, right?
yep. Yes, now in grant, sorry, that was
Yeah.
my bad.
Now in the grant,
Grant, yeah.
not that any of the changes we've made through this budget.
No,
more what-
correct,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, most of our ELL paras are in grants. And our translators as well.
Title I, Title II.
Yep.
Not competitive grants, but grants that we just get.
Right.
We get.
There's like a-
Title
Yeah, there's
II,
the
Title,
state.
Title I, Title
you could have
II.
Title III for
Got
that,
it, right,
bilingual
okay.
grant,
Yes,
yeah.
that's back here.
It's a-
Yep, okay.
And the
Yep.
title grants want mostly,
It's an economic
Salaries.
grant, right?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yes,
Based on
they're
economics.
pretty much all,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
they're getting away from anything else.
So those we typically get every
Graduate.
year,
Yeah.
not like this ESSER money where
Yeah.
it's a one and
Right.
done
Yeah.
or two and done, you
Right,
know.
right, right,
Yeah.
okay. That's why we can move it there because it's not
Yeah, it's,
the special funding.
it's based on
Correct.
economics.
Yeah.
You know, the free and
Right.
reduced lunch and other factors.
Yeah,
And
You're
that's,
limited in what you can pay
Right.
out of those grants.
Right.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but gradually they've been going more towards salary and less towards other
right.
little,
And that, those funds
Entities.
are like when we say a school's Title I, those are the extra funds that they
Mhm.
For the Title I school, yeah.
gotta get that, okay,
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the federal, those come from federal
Yeah.
government,
okay.
run through the state.
run to the
Yeah.
state.
Or the
yeah.
city.
It's a convoluted.
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the,
And
Nothing's
then
directly
with our
from federal.
bilingual grants that we get, then it's based on your bilingual population.
Yeah.
And so gradually that's been inching up as well. So, but it's all, it is federal funds, so
Okay.
I guess
No, I
if
know.
the nation goes under, yes, we won't have that, but we,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we say the entitlements, the title grants are pretty firm.
okay, right, not like that. Okay.
Something would, yeah, have to be really wrong.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. No, sorry, just
Go
one last
ahead.
question. Those counts is what we saw when we went through the ESL. It includes any of the staffing, even if they're not paid out of general budget. Did I say that?
That-
They-
I don't really
You-
understand the question, sorry.
Like,
When
you
we
know-
did the grid,
Yeah.
are those all of our people,
That's-
not just the GB people?
That's
Yes,
with
that
the
was
grants,
everybody.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have it in front of me, but
Me neither,
yes.
but
That's
I-
why it's
I
not
have mine,
gonna,
but
it's
all
not
written
gonna
all
match.
over.
Yeah, but that makes the most sense, because I think we have translators on there
Yeah.
and, yes, and I know that all the translators are grants, so,
Okay, good.
yeah,
Okay, that's what I was hoping. No.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And you have to report like monthly or quarterly?
We do a yearly application,
Okay.
but then they do check in to see, okay, what's the progress? We have lost links that we always have to submit, and the state's
Yeah.
always monitoring that as
There's a
well.
lot of
Yeah,
paperwork and accounting and.
Yeah.
audit, Yeah.
and then our ESL Population Alliance, when they meet with us 3 times a year, they have us check in on how our subgroups are doing, and
Yeah.
that would be one of them, yes.
All right. So what I'd like to do now is go through the items that we've already discussed, and then before we
Everybody have this
decide
one?
what we're doing, we can open it up.
That was
if
the one we
there's
first
any-
gave out, right?
That's
That's
this
the one
one?
I first gave
Yeah,
out.
this one.
Okay, got it.
So what I
Yeah,
asked the
have this one.
administration to do
Hold on, hold on.
is to split the items
Got
we
one? Okay.
discussed into a multi-year plan, so that some of them would be paid. Sorry. One year and the next year, so it kind of shows out everything that
Two-year
we
grant.
discussed that people wanted to add. But it also identifies on the bottom, the things we're putting into ESSER, which is a temporary grant.
Mhm.
So in 2023, 2024, we would have to add to our budget $1,035,
Mhm.
35,230, just to cover those positions, because those aren't positions that are due to the pandemic.
Isn't it 22 to 23?
Yeah, 2-year grant ends
Ends
2/23.
In 23.
And
So
So
then
we-
we'd have
we
to
would need to
budget
budget.
23,
Oh, that much in the
24.
20, gotcha,
Right.
gotcha.
General budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
So these aren't like some of the other items that we're temporarily using and they'll go away in 2 years. These are things that
Mhm.
are going in this, that would need to be absorbed in our general budget at the end of this. So just as a notation, because it's a significant amount of money.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then if you look at, if we go down, you know, we have the additions, so we did it where you could do it in 1 year or 2-year plan. The coordinator for the ELL. So maybe in year 1, we consider the coordinator, which would oversee the whole ELL program, the HR generalist and the social workers at THS and TMS.
Mhm.
would be 305. And then kind of the next round for discussion is the ELE. EL teachers, 6 of them,
Mhm.
paras, 6 of them, tutors, 3 of them, and then Torringford full-time bilingual person would be another batch of 618, 660. So in a prioritization, the top 3 would be first and this would be next, but we do need all of these positions. So do you guys want to vote on them independently to see if we want to put them in the budget, vote on each item?
I want all of them, but that's me.
Armin?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with having all of them. Do we have a consensus from the, from central office on a priority list of what they believe is the priority?
This is it.
This
They
is it.
prioritized it,
Okay,
but to
So this
batch
is
it to
their
help
list, okay.
us. So we need all of these, but if they had to pick, this is the order they would pick.
I'm going with whatever they feel because they're the ones living it every day and know it best. I can't,
I'm gonna
Go
just
ahead.
add to
Gary.
what I was gonna say. I said it too quick, but along with this, though, you have, in my opinion, for me to really push hard, is that it be clearly explained. I don't know who's gonna give the presentation, but to the Board of Finance, like we did with special ed, where we were and where we are, and where we have to go.
Mhm.
So they clearly understand on the Board of Finance.
Yeah. So
You
the
know.
goal is that the coordinator would be able to give us something similar to what Laura gives us
Mhm.
for special ed, where we can really,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
that's
right
what
now,
I'm
there's no.
But we have to
one.
promise to have that available for our budget meeting. The upcoming, I'm saying, just a full explanation of what these dollars are for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I always do. At the very beginning, give that overview and we can add in these positions if the board feels that they want to move forward.
I
And
think there should be
then,
a special breakout though, just like we did with special ed back 3 years ago. Because I don't think, if it's built in, I don't think they're gonna get it.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but
no, we can break it down a little bit more, especially if we are adding if we're adding all of these positions. I do think they
Correct.
need to see what the importance of our, servicing our EL
and
population.
explain the
We
investment.
talked about, right,
Yeah.
how the discrepancy in terms of
Mhm.
how they're really struggling in particular this year. And to really be able to add those supports, many of which we did have in the past. And they've gone by the wayside over time,
And
unfortunately.
isn't the goal to get them out
And-
sooner so that, we have the supports. If the kid goes in kindergarten, he's out by second grade rather than through seventh grade, we're still spending money.
Well, in
you know,
terms
churning.
of
I'm
supports.
exactly-
Yeah,
Right,
right.
in terms
Right,
of supports.
And the
So-
the other main thing is to ensure that they are not held back due
Right.
to a language barrier.
Correct.
And if we can get. in front
Or
of
end
them.
up qualifying for special
Qualifying for
ed
special
ed,
or,
right.
or,
It's a
or
dynamic,
all of
right.
these other scenarios.
Yeah.
That's why I mean. that
To
that
really
should be-
give them the
To-
services they need, just
To be
like we've been
successful.
able to do with our special ed now.
And that's what I think you mean, like for
Yeah.
special ed, we look at what you let us have, we had this much money and we
Right.
saved this.
Yeah.
This is our next.
Right,
Yeah.
I think whoever at the time was speaking to the board, the hope was we'd have at least bust out even,
Mhm.
and in fact, and get our number, I think to 19% or something.
Right.
We've exceeded that and there was extra money left over to put into other resources.
Mhm.
I think
Right.
that
But-
look forward and backward.
Right.
You cut this, we cut the budget, we ended up
Yep.
having to cut these positions. We now have 25% of our population, Hispanic, and the kids
33.
we don't have the money to service them.
Mhm.
And this is where we can see the benefit. Plus that.
so, right,
That
because
approach.
they will want to see a return on investment, but I'm going to say the same thing that Laura said when she started this whole thing, is that it's going to take time.
Yeah,
So in the
absolutely.
second year, you're seeing much more significant
that's
results,
right.
tangible, that you can really hang on to,
Mhm.
versus, okay, it's going to be a miracle
No,
and we're
no.
just going to be able to fix everything in a year, because
Right.
it will take time to really address these needs.
Correct.
Plus
And
you
I
don't know what's coming in.
correct,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
why I think
System
having a
service.
coordinator really helps with that process.
So I think, Gary, all you're really asking is that if the board agrees to add this, that we make this a special piece of our
Correct.
Yeah.
presentation to
Clear.
the board.
Yes, you want to, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always so clear with
I
my
agree with that.
requests.
And we can make it a special presentation to you folks every month, the way Laura does. It's a little bit different in that
Mhm.
in special education, children test annually
Yeah.
throughout the entire year.
Right.
Whereas in EL, there's just that one assessment that
Well,
happens
in March.
once a year in March.
Right.
But we can still show you who's coming in, who's moving out,
Yeah.
so that you have a sense of the numbers. you know.
And maybe include, like with special ed, we maybe mailing the Board of Finance and City Council, the success rate or the effects of what's
Mhm.
happening in our town and not having a social services group and not having,
That's a big piece of it.
a
too.
greeting committee and a place for parents to go to learn the English language like they used to. They would come here and the city had a program for it. Now it's on our shoulders.
Right, and I
It
really
would seem.
believe a big part of the success, I mean, obviously Laura's department has done really wonderful work, but they've had enough people to really go
Right.
in
Mhm.
and
Yes.
really
Yeah.
like a SWAT
And
team
focus,
and
right,
attack it. you
Drill
know,
down and
yeah.
see what
Yeah.
the root causes are and fix
exactly.
it.
Right, if you
And
don't
address
have
it.
enough people, then you're really just
Right.
kind of spinning the wheel.
And having qualified people responsible for
Mhm.
a subsection rather than someone saying to, like, the assistant superintendent, fit this in your spare time, even though you're not bilingual.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to be mean, but
Yeah.
it's comical.
I'm with that. I want to.
All right, so do we want to go down and vote these and then we'll open the floor, or does someone want to entertain some suggestion as a bundle and then we can reopen the floor before we vote on the final?
You say, but
I'm with Gary. I'd like to approve them all.
Yeah.
So that's your motion, Ed?
Yeah.
That's your motion?
I don't know. Fiona, did you ask for motions or just suggestions?
Yeah, I think at this point we have to definitively vote
motion.
one way or the other, just so that we can move forward
Yeah.
on these.
Okay,
items.
yeah.
We'll open the-
I would move to approve them all to add them to the budget.
Yep.
So phase one and phase two. Phase one is 305. Phase two is 618, 660.
So moved.
No, you second.
Oh, I
Yes,
said
Ed
second.
moved,
Yeah.
you second.
Slow down.
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Quick question, and maybe I missed it,
Go ahead.
so I apologize if you already said this. Does this mean that a social worker, the fee for one social worker is $150,000?
It's two.
No,
one for
middle school
THS
and-
one for TMS.
Yeah, we need one at each.
One each site.
It's two.
So $150,000 is two social
Two.
workers?
Yes,
Yeah.
so 75 and
So
75.
so a total of four.
No, total of two.
No, 75 for the high school
okay, I
social
got
worker,
you.
This is the
75 for the
total of
middle
those
school
three
social
line
worker.
items.
I got you.
Sorry,
Okay,
we,
no, you're
we
good.
just
No,
lumped them
no need to
together.
apologize, I read it
Yeah.
wrong. Thank you.
Did you have a question, Nikki?
I just had a comment. I'd like to, I don't know, do I
Yeah,
If
go
I'm-
ahead, this
okay.
discussion.
I think we should try to bring on a coordinator who can really speak the language, assess what's going on, and then figure out what we should invest. And I think that's part of what's worked so well at STUD. But, so I'd be in support of the 1.8.
So just to clarify, so with special ed, we brought in all the positions
Yep.
at the same time. So we
All
brought
the
in,
supervisors
yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
they all came in
at the
Yeah.
same time.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe that we did ask for them to meet with the EL department and say, what do you guys really need? What's gonna help? And I believe you did that. And I think the work was already done because we said, what do you need? Can you talk to the people that have the boots on the ground? And that's what you did, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think these are the results of the
Correct.
groundwork.
Yes, exactly right, thank you.
So I think the tough thing about just, if you put just the coordinator
Yeah.
in without the
What are
resources,
they gonna coordinate?
then they can't
Right.
really do the program.
How
and-
can they make it
That's the only
better?
thing, right? I mean, at least they have the ability to hire people to help them
Mhm.
get it rolling. And we know that it's a shortage area anyways, so it's gonna be hard to find people anyways, so, I think as many people as you can hire is the best way to go. Because don't think you're gonna hire all these positions in the next 6 months. because it is a shortage area. So we gotta look
Or
at
you
that.
might,
Yeah, you might, but I
Yeah.
mean, Kim's probably
yeah, I think
saying,
Kim
I
had
don't-
her hand up too.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Kim, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say exactly to Armand's point, I was just gonna say, by supporting the positions in the budget based on the recommendations from the ELL department and the TSOL department, that will certainly help with recruitment efforts, because it certainly helped us with special ed. The fact that all of those supervisors and everything were already in the budget, when we were, trying to rope Laura in, the fact that she knew that she had those positions already in the budget was a huge selling point to recruit top quality candidates. To know that they've got the supports coming in to do the job successfully, huge recruitment tool.
Actually, that's true.
Yeah.
Remember when
Yes.
we actually had people walk out of this room and say, I won't accept a position without the
Yes.
infrastructure
yeah,
to make it work.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah,
that-
because you're
Yeah, because you're doomed to
shooting
fail.
your foot.
Exactly.
Right.
And so then that made all the difference, really,
Yeah.
being able to have a team. Oh, does Laura wanna?
I think what's odd about this whole structure too is this is what we had before we had
Right.
this number of
Right.
Yes.
kids.
right.
Right.
Laura,
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add on to that, coming in and when I was thinking about this position, there were two things that made me think I wanted this job. Well, three. Number one, Torrington was a challenge. Number two, I felt very comfortable with the central office team that interviewed me. But the number three was just to see the commitment and what you were putting in, because I knew that we could make changes, but I knew that there was no way that this was a one-man job, and I would have been out too if I didn't see that. So just wanted to give you my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. For
Yeah.
accepting the
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah, that's just my concern. It's either we go all in or we don't go all in at all, because I just think that you're not going to be successful. You're not going to get the quality people. You're going to even find it harder to recruit people. And so I say that we have to have it. We have to have these positions in there to say, this is what we want to do. And these are the more people that we're going to hire. And you know what I mean? It sells the whole thing. And I think we have a better chance of success, which in the end helps our budget and helps the kids. I mean, it helps both. So I look at it as an investment.
And
go
I
ahead,
think
Nikki,
Would it
Nikki
come-
and then Ellen.
Would it come, so this is such a hot need.
Mhm.
Would we cut something out of Alliance to fund this? Like how far, we're talking about it just within this one pool of money, but the
Right.
reality is we have a couple other pools. And if it's such a high need,
Right.
would we look at it at the expense of something else in Alliance? Because I said this in the last meeting,
Mhm.
we're getting a lot of money.
Mhm.
And I just think we need to be mindful of how much money is coming in. I know there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, you wouldn't touch, I mean, Alliance is a different kind of thing.
Right.
The other monies that we're getting are ESSER funds and American.
That's why I'm bringing this up
Yeah,
with
so that
Alliance.
would be different.
Yep.
You wouldn't tie it to an Alliance. All
No,
of
you
those
wouldn't.
positions that are in Alliance are also required. You have your sped supervisors in Alliance. So like we were just saying, how pivotal are they? They're so important. You couldn't.
But they're not the only thing in Alliance. That's what I mean.
No,
Like, if
but
we go
what
through
I'm
all the line
saying is
items.
you've
But
got
it's
pivotal
categories.
positions.
We can't, there's
We have
categories
to
that
stop
we have to
relying on
spend
Alliance.
Alliance.
Right.
We are where we are because we rely on it a lot. I said this the first day, a lot of people didn't want to talk about it, but we said it to the city council and the response or board of finance. Well, you have Alliance, so let's just use it.
Let's use it, right?
We gotta stop. I mean, we're just gutting the culture of the city, the ability to educate, the uncertainty and how to educate these kids. We have 25% of our population that has been underserved for probably close to maybe a decade. And, at some point, the town has to either say, okay, we're gonna fix the problem, just like if we have a drug problem in Torrington, you don't hire, well, in my opinion, you wouldn't hire just a guy in charge of the task force, you'd hire the task force. I mean, this is basically a task force. Our grades are lower, the kids they're not moving as fast as they could. I mean, the lower our average scores are, the more difficult it is to attract people to Torrington. I hear it all the time,
Mhm.
including my kids. And I don't know, this is one great way, I think, an easy way. Because, we're looking at Hispanic kids, but no matter who the children are that come here, if you get the help they need, they can move up faster and they can test out faster with appropriate resources.
Mhm.
And they can add, hopefully, overall, an average of an increased testing product. But to ignore the kids for another year or two, and it will be a year or two because we'll face the same problem next year and the year after. I mean, people are worried about a 1.4% or 2.6% increase. And other departments are asking for 5 times that or 4 times that.
Mhm. Right.
We can't keep comparing ourselves though to other
Well, I do.
departments.
I can do whatever I wanted. I'm
You
not
can, but I'm
comparing.
just saying. it's-
Because, well, I
we
can
gotta
go,
be focused
no, you
here.
have to go to the financial statements, like I said the last time. We're not gonna balance the budget on the backs of children again. We've done it for a decade, we've done it for 15 years. And it's not that it was unintentional, I don't think, but if you look back, you'll see the money comes in, the money goes out. We ask for alliance, it goes away, we cut this department. We had no special ed department for 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
How is that
Even longer.
And
possible?
all it's said is, most of it is being paid out of Alliance, right?
But that's the
So to your-
problem.
but to-
It's gotta
then
come
why aren't we
out.
moving some of that
Yeah.
into general budget?
Well, that's part of every year, we're going to move some of that out. And continually, hopefully, because we can't go after we're not gonna have ESSER money next year or the year after. And we have, like I told somebody, I mean, New Britain's got $25 million dedicated to the next 2 years to re-educate their children. We're gonna use every penny that comes in to pay the teachers, to pay the paras, to pay the buses, to pay for everything that's
Mhm.
required. We don't know what that number is. So to say, well, we'll see how where that money comes along, we may never get, if we don't ask for it this year, we probably won't get it next year. And to put it off another year like we do every single year in the past, just repeats the same old pattern over and over again because we're afraid to ask what it's necessary. Now, maybe it's not the city's fault. The state imposes a lot of burden on us,
Mhm.
but it's still our responsibility. And it is, I do compare it to the rest of the budget because it is always a fight to get what we're required to provide to the children every year. And to ignore that aspect just guts the city year after year of its survival mode. We need to prepare these kids to continue to burn, promote that engine of economic, economic forward motion and, the churches and the businesses. And we don't do that anymore for half our children coming out of some of these schools. If they can't graduate by the time they're 18 and the state goes to 25, it's even worse, but it's our obligation to do that. And we fight for it if we have to fight for it. I'm not afraid to fight for that stuff.
Mhm.
And if we know it's needed, like you said, we know, we think we need it. Well, then why wouldn't we ask for it right now? If they say no, they say no. That could be the final outcome. And it has been in the past for a decade, right?
Mhm.
It's a no. So then we have to go back and look at it, but we can't go in because if we say 1.4, they're going to cut us anyway. At least they have in the past. So am I going to assume that they're not or that they are? And then we fight for it. We let the public know the importance. We let the public know that it's an investment, just like an investment in anything else. Let the public decide. The pressure will move it one way or the other. But I wouldn't hold back.
Mhm.
Ellen
I didn't
and
mean
then
to get-
Armand.
No.
I think we need to ask for what we need. And I think this all in is asking for what we need.
Mhm.
The other ESSER and American Cares and
Mhm.
Alliance, we can't keep relying on that. Yes, we're gonna get it, but that's for the extra stuff so that when it comes into the budget, we're in better shape because we don't have to spend all the money on this particular thing or that particular thing because we're so far behind. If we put a lot of this stuff into grants and such, 2-3 years down the line, it's gonna be a balloon. It's gonna be 5 times as much.
So why aren't we doing that with SPED though?
Because I can tell you right now, from my perspective, if I go to the Board of Finance and City Council and tell them that I'm gonna move these sped supervisors out of Alliance, put them in the general budget, they're gonna say, you're still getting Alliance money. Why would we pay for those positions?
Right.
But so then we're never gonna, then we're positioning it to always
Welcome to
rely
the
on.
Board of Ed. I mean, it's
Well, we're
our
still gonna have
job to
try-
let everybody know what we need. We don't have
Right.
control over how much we get. That's the problem.
Right,
Yeah.
and we have to explain again to them that Alliance, we're not gonna have forever.
Right.
This is the amount that we have to move to our general budget.
Mhm.
So it's not only this, it's this plus the Alliance. and we're not gonna have ESSER, and we're not gonna have the American Cares or whatever it's
Rescue-
called.
Rescue plan.
American Rescue Plan.
Or they may call them.
But we need to be
ESSER 3.
rescued now to put what we can to get things to where they should be so that we can present a budget that might not be 5 times this much or 4 times this much or whatever.
And we shouldn't be penalized just because we're the largest budget in the city. And you said that we don't have to worry about other departments, but when they're coming in at almost 10%,
Mhm.
I think we have to take that into
From
consideration.
14.
Armin.
Yeah. I think that, because it looks like our bottom line increases with everything on here for GB is 2.62%, correct?
Yes.
It will, the other thing is, Monday, I have a meeting with Alice
Mhm.
to look at the insurance.
Mhm.
So that will change.
What does that mean to us? What does that mean?
Excuse me?
Favorable for us?
I'm sorry.
Will it change like better for us?
Yes.
Yeah, so at 2.62%, I'm very comfortable, especially, I mean, I don't see any fat in this budget anywhere. I'm very, I'm very comfortable going at 2.62% increase. I think that's a very reasonable number that can be defended, to anybody who says, oh, that's too much money. It's only 2.62%. It's not a lot. And they're projecting inflation might, by the end of the year, be 2.5%. So we're right in there.
This year it might be 4.
Yeah, well, they're
And
saying
what
it'll
of
be
that-
4%.
Right,
It might be
and,
short-term.
Yeah.
and what of that are the contractual obligations,
Really,
That's,
93%.
yeah,
Right.
so there
So-
you go.
Yeah.
John,
So that's not bad.
And having this structure in place will make us better prepared
That's what I was gonna
for
say.
the impact of the affordable housing going up the old Torrington site too,
Mhm.
yeah.
which will come just about the same time the new high school opens, and we maybe pull a few kids back into the high school. The elementary school will get hit with that increase.
Yeah,
Predicted.
I mean, bottom line, the additions that we're asking for are gonna save us money in the long run.
right. They're not.
Lots of
frivolous,
money in the
yeah.
long run. It's an investment. It's not, we're not spending money, we're investing money.
I think the
That's
problem
the way
with
I
not
look at it.
using the line, like you brought up the alliance with the remaining
Yeah,
portion
yeah.
sped. This allows us to build, allows them, I should say, to build a not a network, but a group or
Yeah.
a
A
staff
team, yep.
that's in
Yeah.
place, that's funded already.
Mhm.
If the following year that we need more sped and out of, the plan is to start taking them out of alliance,
Mhm.
and it's not given to us, well, we still have 20 people or whatever we have in the sped department that will hopefully fight to maintain the status quo or continue to improve. But if we put it in alliance, if we put this group in alliance and we move the sped over, we're not going to cut the sped next year when they cut us. We'd have to, or we lose the alliance money. We're not going to have an ELL group. We're not going to have a coordinator. We have nothing.
But then it's not high on the priority list. I guess that's my point,
Well, we
is
have-
that we.
Well, we've got the
intentionally
sped,
should prioritize.
not all that we need, but we still need to somehow get this in the regular budget. So it's not one of those things that gets cut every time alliance gets cut.
And
We
I-
can use what we have for sped already as best we can if we have no more money for sped. If that alliance money goes away, we're gonna have time to transfer it over. But we'll still have a whole department to work with.
I think the state drives the alliance money too, and they
No, I know they do.
approve all the expenditures, so
Right.
the state,
Mhm.
as we've seen, could also switch up what we can use that alliance money for.
Right,
And we'll be
right.
holding the bag. My other concern is with such a shortage area, if I'm interviewing in 3 different school systems and I like all of them, but then I find out I'm being paid from Torrington out of a grant,
Temporary funds.
but I'm being paid out of general budget in the 2 other school systems, I would definitely take a job in the other school.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the national trends, ELL, the gap due to COVID is across the country.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
So the demand
It's
for
huge.
those staff people is
Yeah.
just gonna increase, I think, over the next year or two as our population is increasing.
Mhm.
And everyone's frustration, Nikki, is not at you, it's the process.
So
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the Board of
Oh,
Ed,
yeah, okay, good.
the Board of Ed we have to fight for what we need in the schools to be successful. And, you watch, we cut we cut, and we know the impact, but we have no control of that. But then when the test scores are bad, that's our problem. So it's just, we feel like, I think a turning point a couple of years ago is we have to stand up for what we need. And it's up to the city what kind of school system they have, but it's up to us to let them know what our needs are. And
And
then they
fight
can
for it.
decide.
Right.
Mhm.
And the priorities aren't priorities what we kind of want. They're priorities of need.
Mhm.
We need them all.
We're moving deck chairs around on the Titanic, hoping. to-
Yeah.
And we finally made a little progress of pinning the holes, but we still have a lot of holes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have one question on the English as a ELL or ESL, but, and this is really just how the community, the group functions in our group in typical fashion. It's 20 kids or over in each school are allowed to get the services, but how do we, and how will they fashion something, and maybe this is for some other meeting, but so that, I mean, some kids will come in and there's no services or not, let's say you speak Chinese, so you speak, I don't know, Polish. Are they gonna get the same services as someone speaking Spanish, or we don't have a lot of people that come in with those languages, but it seems like, and I might be
Depends on the
wrong.
percentage
Yeah.
of them.
Right.
Yeah, so we only have it for Spanish because we have 20 or
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
okay, of that language. But the students who are coming in with Chinese or Polish or whatever will get the supports from the EL teachers that we're listing here, EL/TESOL,
Yeah.
okay, teachers of English as a
Okay.
second language. So that's why it's important to have more of them, because we don't just have a Spanish speaking population.
Right,
So we
somebody's
want to
speaking
make
other
sure that we're
languages.
servicing all students. And then the students who are coming in with the language needs, the Spanish speakers, as well as all those other students, will benefit from having this teacher as well. So it's a combination. And then for our bilingual students who are bilingual Spanish, they get the help from the bilingual Spanish teacher. So,
Bilingual Spanish
We
means
we
what? What does that
can,
mean?
we'll talk about that another meeting.
Yeah, I know,
because
I know,
we're
that's-
actually
yeah,
in
sorry.
Discussion on a
Yeah.
vote on the table.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know, sorry, I said it's
Okay,
probably not for this. so
well,
this
you
is
get
an-
more than you want to know about all this, right?
Sick.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, in fact, let's abolish policy and just have double sick. leave.
That's
So is there any
That would
other
free up a meeting for
discussion-
me.
Discussion on the table.
Yeah, I would just say that, you guys hear me say it a lot, that, it's not really our responsibility to, try to conceive of the wants and whims of the people who give us our money. But if it keeps coming up, I would just say that the city's grand list has grown by 2.6% in the last year. And frankly, they could give us our entire requested budget increase and still have extra money for the city departments. And I guess the point I'm making by saying that is frankly, I don't care how much this is going to cost. I care that it meets a defined need. And if the people who are responsible for giving us our money are really concerned about how much it's going to cost, then frankly, they don't know how to budget, because the city has more money coming in this year than it will have ever had before. And they could meet our increase in its totality and still fund all of their other departments. And so I'm just really not worried about how much this costs. This at this moment in time, the city of Torrington can meet its obligation to the Board of Education in full without causing a budget problem.
I agree with you. And that, if not this year, then when? I mean, maybe we'll get a repeat next year and the year after. Hopefully we continue to see growth.
Mhm.
But hopefully this investment in high school and in these programs and hopefully higher scores attracts more people, because we haven't attracted a lot of people to this town in the last decade. We're starting to see it now.
Yeah.
But that's purely a shift of people moving up the coastline.
Hopefully.
All right, any other discussion on the motion on the floor currently?
No.
All right, all those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Marissa, do you have that? Okay.
We're just gonna put this on one line item, okay, in the budget, and when it passes, we'll then distribute into the right accounts.
Okay.
That's what we did last year.
Yeah, right, right.
So is there any
It'll be
other
its own
items
little
people want
pad.
to discuss? Add to the budget, cut to the budget?
We were gonna talk about cuts after, right? Maybe after we get our number.
I mean, if you have bigger ones, like the cave is a small one, if we cut that at the end, it's not gonna. But I mean, more programming items.
I'm good with this. As I said before, I'm good with this budget. I think we should go in with it. I think it's solid, where we can defend everything in it. And we could also, talk about how it's actually going to end up saving us money in the long run. It's an investment.
Yeah.
So, I don't like to spend more money than we need to, like most other people, but you have to invest sometimes in order to save money.
There's a question, it's gonna sound like a silly question
Yeah,
that I
it's
should
okay.
probably know, but we talk about the sped money, right? Or the sped money we're saving.
Yeah.
If you had a pinpoint where that money is going, right? Because that should, in theory, kind of exactly what we're saying, DLL, open up other opportunities. Where would you say that that's going?
Well, first though, I mean, you remember, so last week we had the one student that moved in $232,000.
Right, yeah. But this budget, so I'm sure it's gonna be, I think this budget has, or we're saying there's a savings. Right, that's what we're talking about, the ROI on special education
Yeah.
funding.
Right.
So I guess in just, you pinpointed where we're spending that.
Well,
So,
go ahead.
okay.
I
No,
thought
I'm
we
just
talked
gonna give
about
you
it.
one quick example. In all my time in the district, there's never been a flat sped
That's what I
budget.
was saying.
Laura came in at the same level she did last year. That's
amazing.
never happened before. Because you have to remember that tuitions go up and we have all of those other special services that we talk
Transportation.
about every year that go up.
Mhm.
And just to be able to do that,
Right, so
it
it's
is
not a line
amazing
item
in and
savings.
of
No,
itself.
well, hopefully
No.
we'll
It's the
figure it out.
small-
And then,
It's the grant.
right, and she's already started to defray some of the costs, yes. One of her positions went from a 1.0 to a 0.6. So there will be more and more of those shifts over time, but we're only in our second year of doing this. And certainly Laura can speak to
So
some
that was,
things I
that
know
was the
Gary
that
had.
promise we made to board, well, not the
Right.
promise. That was the projection, and
And
I
that's
forget,
the goal, right?
it was,
Right.
let's get this.
Not muted.
Okay.
And then,
I know
hopefully
Laura
every year.
wants
Laura can do it. Yeah, Laura can do it.
I'm like jumping at the screen. Um, and my husband just walked in. I'm like, shh, I'm not muted. So yeah, I just wanted to say that when I first came on to, remember we said it wasn't an overnight fix.
Mhm.
So I think that you will begin to see more financial, because some of the things that we've been doing it's just natural that is going to happen. So for example, the reducing numbers, and the reducing outplacement. So as Sue was just saying, okay, we get kids out, we reduce those tuitions. Even if we have another expensive one move in, we still have the deduction of the ones that we have gotten out already. The transportation is a huge amount of money. And so every child we're able to bring back to district, that matters. Also, by improving our evaluation method, we are identifying fewer children. So as far as in-district staff that are needed, if we don't have as many children in staff in district, we don't need as many staff, but then also we're not outplacing. So I think you'll begin to see it over time. It's very hard because of like that example that I gave you at the last meeting.
Thank you.
But remember, my meeting next week will change this budget to be lower.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, can I ask a question then?
Well, that's why we're talking about it on
Why can't we just
Monday.
keep it?
And the mayor knows about it.
Yeah, you could approve it and then,
Yeah, well,
that's what I'm saying.
and
That's what I
then
was
to
gonna say.
ensure that amount.
So potential.
And then,
Yeah.
But send
We-
this to the city.
No, we're gonna send, if we agree Monday, it's gonna be lower. So we would send at a lower, well,
I have a suggestion, a request, a discussion. We voted already. So, but if we're anticipating those kinds of things, we had a request for more P in the elementary program, which we didn't entertain, I guess, or, we can't afford. If again, it's 2.62%. What would you think we could use? I know people get mad that we're asking for inflation, but that we're not getting, that we could use our savings for, potential, if we have savings, before we write it off.
Well, the other thing is, remember, this does not include our work with the technology and the buildings.
Right.
So.
It's not our
capital.
capital budget.
Yeah,
Capital
so
budget,
that's at
okay.
4%
So if our budget
right
is
now.
lower,
So you want
They
to
would,
be
if
careful.
they give us more money, we're gonna
Yeah.
use more for
That's the big
capital.
factor,
Right.
yeah.
If
Again,
they know how much we're saving in insurance, that's how much we're gonna cut. They're gonna cut. Is my experience,
we're not negotiating well is my point, but
perhaps.
But I'm
you
just
don't
saying
win
we-
by not
No, I know,
negotiating.
I know, I know.
You lose every time you don't negotiate. Nobody will argue you can win. And nobody can prove you'll ever win. So, but anyway, we can address that later. maybe.
But I have to,
I know. I
No,
know, yeah, I
absolutely,
understand.
He's just sharing, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's important.
But
to
we
be-
can decide that we want to go in with this, the 78, which we
2.61,
just,
yeah.
2.62, and then if there's any, you know, as the 10 of us or 9 of us, we'll decide if that's what we want to do. You'll present to us and we'll decide if
Right.
that's, yeah.
Didn't we just
Except-
vote though?
We voted on this,
No,
but then
we-
he's
we
got
only voted
insurance.
on
Oh,
that one
sorry.
sheet.
Budget yet. We've
I
only
thought we were
voted
voting
these
on the,
items.
got it.
No,
We just
just
voted
the-
on those items. yet.
On
thought we were
those,
voting
on
on
those
the total
particular items,
percentages.
not on the whole budget.
Got it.
Right.
Right.
I just happened to make a comment about the whole budget
I thought
increase
that's
and
we
I
were
was in
voting on
favor
the
for it.
the percentages.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm happy,
Yeah, I
so
thought
happy
it
you're
was.
doing that,
Yeah,
but I also think, isn't that like kind of a moving target right up till? the
this is,
end?
Yeah.
this is,
I mean, if you can negotiate a lower rate, I think we should go with that lower
Well,
rate
what I-
in our
Yeah.
told
submission.
the mayor
Right.
that I'm not doing any more. This is our price and Alice agrees with it. That's what we're going with.
So I think if we can get a commitment to that, it would behoove us to put that number in our budget.
Yeah.
But that would be the only change. So like the
Yeah.
rest of the budget wouldn't
Right.
change, but that line item
Yeah.
could be less.
Significantly less?
So we just bring the budget down.
Yes.
Because you have to think with I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of our rate is based on claims, right? So a lot of people haven't left the house in a year.
Claims are down.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean
What
that the
happens when they go-
following year, you're not gonna get that plus all
But
the.
so if
Right.
people are deferring their claim requirements, next year it goes up 50%.
Right.
What do
That's
we
what
do?
we,
We're
that's
not
what we
gonna-
put in the budget.
Right, but it's hard, again, I'll make the
No, I know,
argument that
I
it's,
know.
you don't ever get back what you get back. You just don't get it back.
But it's a bill, so like the insurance.
Right.
The city.
Because
bills
we're
us for that
self-insured.
amount.
It's
Yeah.
a different
I-
animal, yeah.
It is and it isn't. It's-
Well, I know.
It still comes from us.
I know where you're coming from, because you're saying, okay, so if we're gonna have a savings of $100,000, I don't know what it is, but it's saying, then we should put in another teacher or something like that.
If we need it,
If we need it, right?
If we need
I know where you go, I know.
because next year the insurance claims are gonna go up. I mean, everybody predicts it. They're predicting huge numbers. And
Right.
if people,
But if we have, so because it's a bill, it's not our expense, I think that's where it's different. So say if we have 15 million in our budget and they meet Monday and say your bill's 14 million. If we put 15 million, if we reduce our number,
so this is the
If we
gross
keep-
versus net issue or no?
right, so whatever we have in our budget,
Yeah,
we don't get to spend the rest. Like
Correct.
if they say.
This is,
Yeah.
this is,
Right,
this is our net.
14
Right,
million,
right,
they're not
right.
saying,
And
keep
that's-
that
it
other
is what it
million.
is. Yeah, yeah,
Right, exactly.
If you kept it,
So-
they're gonna cut you that.
They're gonna
Yeah.
cut us
Right,
the
so
million.
right.
it doesn't
And-
matter.
Right,
Yeah,
you're chasing your tail.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be concerned that the bigger picture, not from the Board of Ed thing about the bubble blower when everyone comes out of their house.
yeah, right,
It's
right.
all fine now.
Well, that's starting already.
Yeah.
Hospitals are full and that with COVID.
So we'll conditional that, but so is there anything else relative to the budget that anyone wants to discuss? Keeping in mind that we're gonna all come back in June and do all this again at the end of May or
Yep.
beginning of June, when we actually have a number.
We'll be starting again in at least May, maybe end of April, and then May. June.
So is there anything specific anyone would like to add or
No.
consider removing from this budget?
Nope,
Um,
I think it's good.
Any other questions on the budget before we move it to a vote?
No.
All right. So I will entertain a motion to authorize the administration to finalize and submit our budget at the 2.62% with any adjustment required from the insurance meeting on Monday next week. Because we won't meet again before it has to be submitted. Second.
Second.
Second, Gary.
Discussion?
Mhm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nikki's opposed, everyone else is in favor?
Yes.
All right. Comments for the good of the order, John?
None, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Sue and Ed and whoever else put time in to get answers for my questions. I appreciate it.
Ellen?
Thanks for the millions of hours of work all you guys do. Appreciate it.
I just think it went well. I think it's important that people who don't agree speak up.
Mhm.
Not afraid to speak up. We're getting to that point, I think. And
Well, it's good discussion. It's
yeah, I
good
did. I said it was.
discussion.
I said it's a good thing that we've gotten to the point where
Yeah.
Yeah.
people don't feel uncomfortable. Or less.
Ed? Ed, Corey?
Oh, sorry. Usually Ed Aram goes first. I would just say,
Age before beauty.
yeah, something like that. I just say thank you to everybody who put in a lot of work on this budget. I think it's a good budget, and I'm hopeful for the future of the school district. Thank you.
Ellie?
Thank you, everyone.
Laura?
Thanks, guys.
Kim?
Thank you, everyone.
Marissa?
Thank
Armand?
Thank you, everybody. Keep up the heart, keep up the good work.
I just want to thank Ed and his team because I think they've done a phenomenal job. This was not an easy year. We transitioned to position control and then trying to rally and get all this out. So many, many thanks. I know he could have chosen many other places and many other things, but including Florida, but he chose us.
Yeah.
And we're eternally grateful.
Yes.
Yeah.
My wife chose you.
Well, we love Alice too.
It'll be 50 years next week.
I know.
Can't believe it.
Yeah.
Wow,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Amazing.
Sue?
Show and tell.
Wait for my comment, that's
Come
in
on.
order.
Oh,
Age before beauty.
there you go.
You want to go next?
This is what we've gotten from Job Lot,
Oh, okay.
That is so
$20,000 worth of
wonderful.
all this stuff.
Oh, that cost 20,000.
Good to go.
Prices are still really important.
Yeah, really. Wait, let's relook at the budget
We
here.
put a ton of stuff at the high school and the rest is the middle school. We got two
Nice.
big pallets. So
Nice,
this is
nice.
this is what we got.
Yes, we want to thank them.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank
Excellent.
them.
Thank you.
That'll be nice.
Job lot.
Nice press
Okay,
release.
yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
Something.
yes.
Yep. Writing it up.
Okay,
So-
beauty before age.
There you go. No, I was just gonna say thank you to everybody too. I think this was a really exciting budget process, actually. It was good conversation, really rigorous, right? Lots of debate, and I think it, like Ed Corey said, it gives me hope too. I think there's it's a hopeful
Definitely.
budget document.
What the district needs.
That's, I did my.
Show and
Yeah,
tell.
that was his. That was his.
So I also want to thank everybody. This process starts so long before it comes to the board. It's a grueling process. And I think when we're trying to change to improve things, that position control is a nightmare. But you guys did it, so we appreciate it. You know, I also feel like I'm not happy with this budget. I'm happy that we're moving something forward, but I have a list of 137 things at this point that I really think are priority items that we need. So I think everybody's got to understand, we're not going to get everything we want, and we're not going to also be happy with all of the items, but in general, if we continue to move the district forward, then we're gonna be in a much better place than where we've been. And I think we've shown that. We need to stay strong on it. And I appreciate all of you guys and your time and central office. We are better off than we were a couple of years ago, and we just have to keep the momentum
Yeah,
going and address some of the issues
So much
a little bit at a time and try to get in front of some of these major things that are preventing us from being as successful as we can be. So that's it. John, your
Motion to
favorite.
adjourn.
You want to second the adjournment?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
7:38.